After robbing a bank belonging to ghosts, Chun-Mu now has 1 trillion ghost coins in hand. Even 1 ghost coin is equal to millions of human rupees. But then suddenly, a notification tells him to turn left ahead and not jump out the window, and to please pay attention to obeying the rules. He says he has already robbed a bank, so what rules is he supposed to follow? Suddenly, the people behind him shout to stop and catch him. He looks back and says, crap, they're catching up. But in his mind, he thinks he can't worry about that anymore. He just jumps out of a window right in front of him. He finally tells himself he made it. But then he suddenly sees a fist coming right at him and says what? The fist hits him really hard and sends him flying away. He drops down on the ground. The guy in front of him says that humans who violate the rules have only one path, death, and tells him to be a good boy and become his meal. Now he is quite scared and mutters, damn it. Then Chun-Mu continues thinking in his mind that he has struggled and scrambled for 5 years in this apocalypse where the weird descended. He has always been cautious, hiding here and there, but in the end, he was still driven to a dead end by the ghosts. However, although ghosts are terrifying, they love money just like humans do, specifically ghost coins. So to escape this dog-eat-dog life, he decided to take a risk and rob the Nether Bank using the epic tier special ring he obtained earlier. Unfortunately, while escaping, he was cornered, violated the rules, and ultimately fell short. He thinks he's not resigned to this and really can't accept it. But then suddenly, the ring in his hand starts glowing, and everything turns into a really dark area. There, he suddenly wakes up again. He wonders if he has been reborn. The others are talking. One of them says he heard that a weird scenario has already appeared in their city. The other replies that as long as you violate the rules, you'll face severe punishment, losing an arm or a leg if you're lucky, and losing your life if you're not. He wonders if a weird scenario really appeared. Could it be? Then he remembers it is December 31st, 2024. He thinks that sure enough, he has actually returned to the moment the weird apocalypse just descended. He wonders if he has to go through those days of living in fear all over again. Then he notices his hand and thinks about the special ring. He wonders if all the ghost coins from the Nether Bank are actually still inside. So that's it. It looks like in this life he can finally pull off something big. If he remembers correctly, at this time in his past life, Jiang City's first weird scenario was about to descend upon their school. Then suddenly, a notification says, attention please. The weird mission Midnight Cafeteria is about to begin. A girl gets really scared and asks what this is, seeing a notification as scary as this is something she has never experienced before. Then another voice says they have been selected to become waiters at the Midnight Cafeteria. Another tells them to arrive at the mission location before 12 o'clock. The notification repeats that the weird mission Midnight Cafeteria has begun and that they must rush to the cafeteria before midnight. As qualified waiters, being late cannot be forgiven. Another girl gets really scared and says it's a weird mission, right? Then everybody starts running around, screaming for help and trying to escape. As everyone panics, one girl cries that she doesn't want to die yet and asks if she doesn't have to go. The guy tells her he advises her to follow the rules. Although entering a weird scenario is dangerous, there is still a glimmer of hope. If she is late, she will be erased immediately. After hearing this, the girl cries even more, but she knows she has to go. Then he thinks about the Midnight Cafeteria and says that if he remembers correctly, this cafeteria is a blue chip stock and will be very useful later. The apocalypse basically starts with buying it. Soon, another notification says midnight is approaching and late waiters will be erased. 3, 2, 1, commencing erasure. Those who fail shout no, but they are immediately erased left and right. Some who make it their sigh in relief, saying, phew, that was so scary. Another girl tells Chun-Mu she's scared and that he has to protect her. However, Chin-Mu just swats her away and asks who she is, telling her not to try to latch onto him. She gets really frustrated and snaps at him. Then a voice cuts in and tells everyone to be silent. It says it is the manager of the Midnight Cafeteria and that there are 3 rules here. First, those who come to spend money are distinguished guests, and all staff must unconditionally satisfy the guests' demands, including the manager. Second, damaging cafeteria items is not allowed, otherwise you will be punished. Third, leaving the cafeteria during working hours is not allowed. Then, as the guests start arriving, she says sorry for the wait, distinguished guest. The guest snaps at her, asking what she's dawdling for and telling her to hurry up and come over. After seeing the look on the guest's face, the other girls get really scared, but the manager tells everyone to shut up. She bows and apologizes to the distinguished guest, saying she will handle it immediately. Then she tells them to take her away. As the others drag her away, the guest orders them to serve the dishes. The lady politely tells the guest to please enjoy the meal, and the guest starts eating like crazy. After seeing this, one girl just can't take it anymore. She asks what the guest is eating and says it's so disgusting. She looks like she's about to throw up. The guest then points at her and tells her to come over and wipe his his mouth clean. The girl refuses and says she doesn't want to, but it doesn't look like she has much choice. The scared lady mutters, "Damn it." Then she walks over and asks if this is okay and starts wiping his mouth. The guest says very good and hands her a tip. After taking the money, she gets happy and asks if this is really for her. The other girls see it and whisper that those are actually ghost coins. They say they heard ghost coins are extremely precious and can even make the weird show mercy. Another says she heard a tycoon spent $1 million just to buy 10 ghost coins, and she didn't expect this ghost to casually take out 10 ghost coins as a tip. The lady then thinks about Chun-Mu and feels smug, thinking it's a good thing she didn't let him have this opportunity, and that he must be dying of regret now. The guest says he's done eating and tells her to take the plate away. She immediately agrees and calls him distinguished guest again. However, as she is about to leave, she suddenly falls to the ground and the plate shatters. The distinguished guest doesn't like that at all. He mocks her for being clumsy and tells her to pay up. In reality, he was the one who stuck his leg out and tripped her on purpose. The lady angrily says he tripped her on purpose. But the manager grabs her and says that even if a customer makes things difficult, rules are rules. The lady panics and says she will pay and use the ghost coins to compensate for the plate. The manager asks if she is sure she wants to make compensation. She says she is sure. Chun-Mu watches and calls her foolish, saying she just gave up her last chance of survival and that it's impossible for her to leave alive. She snaps back at him, saying he's talking nonsense and that she already made compensation. The manager calmly explains that the price of one plate in this cafeteria is 20 ghost coins, and her money is not enough. The lady shouts that it's impossible, saying that money can be exchanged for 1 million outside. So how can it not buy a single plate here? The manager replies that the money humans use means nothing to them. Then the ghost asks how he should punish her now. The girl starts crying. She doesn't want to be punished, but there is nothing she can do anymore. The guest laughs for quite a while and then slowly looks over the rest of them. He says watching the expressions of human fear is truly interesting and wonders who he should choose to serve him next. The girls panic. One immediately begs him not to pick her. Another says she doesn't want to either. Then the guest looks at Chun-Mu and calls him kid, asking if he isn't afraid. The guest points at him and says he's the one, telling him to hurry over and help take the plate away. He adds that the 10 ghost coins are his. The lady quickly warns Chun-Mu not to go and says the guest wants to harm him. Chun-Mu tells her not to worry and says he has his ways. Then he walks up to the guest and casually asks if he's just carrying a plate, right? The ghost shows the ghost coins. Chun-Mu immediately grabs the money and swats his hand away. The plate drops to the ground and shatters. The ladies, the manager, and even the guest are completely stunned. They can't believe what just happened. Chun-Mu tells them not to waste time and says they should skip to the next step. The girl starts laughing loudly and mocks him, saying his money isn't enough to compensate either, and that he should prepare to die. The manager storms over angrily and says he damaged an item, so he must either pay up or die. Chun-Mu calmly tells her not to rush and asks her to serve him a portion of peanuts for 10 ghost coins. He says he'll eat it right there. Then he shows the ghost coin to the manager. The manager asks what he means. Chun-Mu explains that the rules state that as long as someone spends money, they are a customer of the cafeteria, and all cafeteria staff cannot refuse a customer's requests. So he chooses to become a customer and demands to refuse compensation. Even the ghost guest is quite shocked after hearing all of this. Then the manager praises him, calling him a truly clever customer, and asks for his name. Chun-Mu modestly replies that she flatters him and introduces himself as Chun-Mu. The red-haired lady panics and shouts, asking what they're doing and telling them to hurry up and take him down since he also smashed a plate. The manager calmly explains that she still doesn't understand. Mr. Chun-Mu has already used the rules to find a way to clear the stage. The red-haired lady is completely shocked and asks what. She hurriedly says she wants to spend too and become a customer as well. But the manager reminds her that she already confirmed with her earlier and that there is no second chance. The red-haired lady is totally bamboozled and asks how that could be. The manager then politely asks Mr. Chun-Mu if he has any other requests. Chun-Mu asks her to call out the boss of the cafeteria. Then he casually drops another bomb and says he wants to buy the cafeteria. The manager asks if he's joking. She admits their cafeteria's revenue has dropped recently, but to buy it would require at least several million ghost coins. Chun-Mu says of course he's not joking. As long as she helps him find the boss, this will be her tip. He then shows a huge stack of ghost coin notes. The manager stutters in shock, counting 30,000 ghost coins. Even the guest is stunned and asks how much. The red-haired lady also can't believe it's 30,000. The manager, however, is overjoyed. She thinks that amount equals 2 years of her wages and realizes he's a hidden big shot. The red-haired girl gets furious and demands to know why. If he has so much money, he didn't help her earlier. Chun-Mu stands calmly and says he's not related to her in any way, so why should he pay for her mistakes? The manager politely asks Mr. Chun-Moo to wait a moment while she goes to call the boss. Chun-Moo says no problem and that he'll wait right there. Then the manager turns to the red-haired girl and says that since she violated the rules, she must accept the punishment. Then the red-haired lady breaks down crying, saying she was wrong and begging Chun-Moo to save her because she doesn't want to be taken away. But no one is there to save her. No matter how much she begs, it's useless. The manager just laughs, grabs her by the leg, and drags her out. The guest who was acting arrogant earlier immediately changes his attitude. He nervously calls Chun-Moo big brother and says he hopes he won't take what happened just now to heart, claiming he drank too much. He clearly doesn't want to mess with him anymore. Chun-Moo coldly tells him to get lost. The guest hurriedly agrees, saying no problem, and runs off, saying he's getting lost right now. The remaining girls stare at Chun-Moo in disbelief. Chun-Moo calmly tells them to sit down. As they sit, one of them whispers that they're supposed to be on an extremely dangerous weird mission. Another mutters that the whole genre suddenly changed when it comes to Chun-Moo. Just then, two figures walk in. One of them carries a really dark and heavy aura. The manager immediately straightens up and calls out boss. The other girls also look over nervously. Even Chun-Moo is slightly surprised. The manager introduces him and says this is Mr. Chun-Moo. The man with the dark aura looks at Chun-Moo and asks if he's the one who wants to buy his midnight cafeteria. Although his cafeteria's revenue has declined recently, he says the scale and location are still the best. Chun-Moo replies that he is indeed very optimistic about its development prospects. In his heart, he thinks that in his past life, although the midnight cafeteria was sluggish in the early stages, it later became one of the top hotels in the weird world in one fell swoop. This time, he must intercept it in advance. The owner thinks to himself that this is great. Someone is finally taking over this mess, and he must not miss this opportunity. He tells Mr. Chun that the price he's asking is a bit expensive and wonders if he can handle it. Chun-Moo calmly tells him to name his price. The owner says 7 million ghost coins, and the cafeteria will be his. The manager is stunned and asks if the boss is being a bit shady, questioning whether their place can really sell for 7 million. She even tells him to look at Mr. Chen's expression. The owner suddenly feels uneasy and thinks he might have asked for too much. He quickly adds that if it's not suitable, they can discuss it further. Chun-Moo simply says there's no need and offers 8 million, wanting to close the deal right now. The manager is completely shocked and repeats 8 million. The owner is overjoyed and asks if Mr. Chun is joking. The manager nervously asks if he plans to keep them on. The owner thinks to himself that he was planning to run away after selling the cafeteria anyway. Who cares about these lonely souls and wild ghosts? This way, he won't even have to pay the wages he owes them. So he immediately agrees and says he will leave all the staff members to Mr. Chun. He then politely asks how long it will take for Mr. Chun to make the payment so he can prepare the contract. Chun-Moo says they'll do it today because he likes paying in cash. Then a massive stack of ghost coins is pushed onto the table right in front of them. The owner is stunned and thinks that Chun-Moo just took out 8 million like it's nothing. He hurriedly prepares the contract and says Mr. Chun is very straightforward in business. He tells him to sign it and the cafeteria will be his. Chun-Moo immediately signs. As he does, an aura begins to glow. The ghost tells him not to worry. It's the power of the rules. After signing the contract, he will officially be the boss of this cafeteria and no one else can forcibly take it away from him, not even the former owner. Chun-Moo says he can feel it. In his heart, he thinks that this cafeteria, just like the spatial ring, has formed a connection with him. From today on, the rules of the cafeteria will be set by him. On the other side, the former owner keeps thinking about the 8 million ghost coins. He can't believe he not only sold that failing cafeteria, but also got rid of the troublesome staff without paying their wages. Meanwhile, Chun-Moo thinks that with 8 million, he has secured a weird scenario that will be worth tens of billions in the future. Both of them shake hands happily, each convinced they made a huge profit. The owner then leaves with a giant bag of ghost coins, saying there's no need to see him out, and wishing Mr. Chen a prosperous business before hurrying off. After he leaves, Chun-Moo turns to the staff manager and says that now he is the boss of the cafeteria and wants to modify the rules. The manager immediately agrees, saying no problem since he's the boss and can change them however he likes. As the clock shows 12:29, Chun-Moo announces that he stipulates this weird mission will end at 12:30. The manager agrees without hesitation. Chun-Moo then tells the girls they can go back safely now. They are overjoyed and thank him repeatedly. One says that if it weren't for him, they definitely wouldn't have been able to leave alive. Chun-Moo then tells the manager to gather all the staff because he wants to hold a meeting in 10 minutes. The manager replies, okay, boss. 10 minutes later, all the staff members are assembled. Chun-Moo introduces himself and tells them their previous boss sold both them and the cafeteria to him. From today on, he is the new person in charge. Some of the staff think to themselves that it's all the same no matter who the boss is, since they're just beasts of burden anyway. Chun-Moo then says he knows the previous boss owes them half a year's wages. But he is different. He promises to pay all their back wages and tells manager Lee to distribute them shortly. He reveals a massive pile of ghost coins. The staff's eyes light up. One excitedly points out how many ghost coins there are. Another tells him to stop shouting because he isn't blind. Someone estimates there are at least hundreds of thousands. Chun-Moo adds that as long as they continue working for him, he guarantees their wages will be paid on time every month from now on. The entire staff bursts into cheers. One says that's great. Another happily says he can finally save money to get a wife. Someone else even calls him their god. Chun-Moo quietly thinks that such a small amount of money in exchange for the staff's immense gratitude is totally worth it, and he really has to thank the previous boss for setting this up for him. As Chun-Moo leaves, all the staff see him off, telling him to take care, boss. He thinks to himself that even though taking down the midnight cafeteria gave him a boost from the power of the scenario, his current strength is only at the ghost soldier tier at best. If he encounters a higher level weird, he still won't be able to escape being taken down. He realizes he needs to get himself some life-saving equipment. As he walks further, he suddenly sees a car zoom past him. He finds it strange that there's still a taxi this late at night. He gets in and tells the driver to go to Wangjiang Community. The driver is actually a ghost. After hearing the destination, he slams his foot on the pedal and speeds off. Inside the car, Chun-Moo starts thinking. Even though there are few cars at night, the speed feels a bit exaggerated. He also notices a faint smell of blood in the car. Then he spots a bloody handprint. He immediately realizes there's definitely something wrong with this taxi. As he carefully observes his surroundings, he concludes that he has stumbled into another mobile weird scenario, the Nether Taxi. In the weird apocalypse, humans have to face three major threats. The first is weird missions like the midnight cafeteria. The unlucky ones who are chosen must find a way to survive and complete the mission. The second is malicious ghosts disguised as ordinary people. They lure unsuspecting humans into weird scenarios. The third is even harder to guard against. You don't even realize you've entered a weird scenario, and by the time you do, it's basically too late. Fortunately, in his past life, Chun-Moo heard about the rules of the Nether Taxi. As long as you have enough ghost coins to pay the fare, you can leave safely. He also remembers that if you don't have money, you must jump out of the car before it accelerates to escape. If you're both stupid and poor and accidentally take the Nether Taxi, you'll just end up as food for the ghost. However, the rougher the storm, the more valuable the reward. The Nether Taxi is extremely fast and a very efficient means of transport. Plus, while passengers are inside, they are immune to harm from other ghosts. When they finally reach the destination, the ghost driver slowly turns around and tells Chun-Moo that the fare is 10,000 ghost coins and that he should pay up now. Chun-Moo says 10,000 is way too expensive. The ghost coldly replies that if he doesn't have the money, then he shouldn't blame him for getting nasty. Chun-Moo casually praises him, saying he can drive that fast without even using his eyes and is truly worthy of being a veteran driver. The ghost snaps at him to cut the crap and says that if he can't pay the fare, he should prepare to die. Chun-Moo calmly asks who said he can't pay. He then pulls out a bundle of ghost coins and tells the driver that he dares to give it, but asks if the ghost dares to take it. The ghost is immediately flustered. He didn't expect this kid to actually have 10,000 ghost coins. The rules of the Nether Taxi clearly state that as long as the passenger pays the fare, they can get off safely. Chun-Moo then exposes him, saying he deliberately used his body to block the taxi meter so he couldn't see the real fare and quoted a sky-high price to scare him. He was certain Chun-Moo wouldn't have that many ghost coins, so he could justifiably kill him. The ghost starts wondering what kind of background this kid has. The apocalypse only started a month ago, yet he knows the scenario rules like the back of his hand. Chun-Moo presses further and says he didn't expect the ghost to be so black-hearted. It's clearly only 10 ghost coins, yet he dared to ask for 10,000. The ghost tells him to just pay and leave and to stop the chatter. Chun-Moo tells him not to rush and asks if he's tempted by these ghost coins. He asks if he wants them. The ghost cautiously asks what he means. Chun-Moo says of course he can give them to him. He even takes out another 10,000 ghost coins and casually stacks them together, saying he'll add another 10,000. The ghost stares at the pile of 20,000 ghost coins, both wary and tempted. Chun-Moo then tells him that as long as he agrees to one condition, these 20,000 ghost coins are all his, and there will be more every month from now on. The ghost narrows his eyes and asks what condition. Chun-Moo tells him to be his exclusive driver, the kind who's on call anytime. If he performs well, there will be extra bonuses. The ghost is stunned. He thinks about how he works himself to death driving a taxi for only 3,000 a month, while this guy casually waves his hand and offers 20,000. Then Chun-Moo takes out even more ghost coins. Seeing that pile of money, the ghost's hesitation instantly disappears. He introduces himself as Van Chosher and agrees on the spot. From now on, he is Chun-Moo's exclusive driver. Chun-Moo tells him to sign the contract and says that starting tomorrow, he officially works for him. The ghost immediately produces a phone and a contract. He respectfully tells Boss Chun to take the phone and explains that as long as he calls, he guarantees he will appear within 5 minutes. In his heart, the ghost thinks that since Chun Mu spends so lavishly, he must serve him well and absolutely cannot let this golden opportunity slip away. Chun Mu nods and tells him to come pick him up at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at a specific location. After that, Chun Mu sighs. Even with the cafeteria under his control, his current strength still isn't enough to handle weird scenarios that require brute force. Then he remembers that the Mist Museum is nearby. The museum owner, Duke William, is at the Ghost General tier. He has numerous powerful subordinates at the Ghost Soldier tier. On top of that, Duke William possesses a Ghost General tier treasure called the Death Heavy Armor. After wearing it, one can be immune to most damage caused by the weird. However, obtaining that item doesn't involve completing a mission. The only way to get it is for the Duke to give it away voluntarily. Chun Mu recalls from his past life that Duke William has actually been financially struggling for a long time. Although he looks glorious on the surface, he's extremely short on money. Coincidentally, ghost coins are the one thing Chun Mu has in abundance. Thinking of this, he smiles and heads out. The next morning, when he steps outside, he sees the ghost driver already waiting. Chun Mu remarks that he didn't expect him to be so punctual. The ghost respectfully replies that punctuality is the basic ethic of an exclusive driver. He even says Boss Chun probably hasn't had breakfast yet, so he brought some along the way. Chun Mu thanks him. The ghost politely opens the door and asks him to get in, while secretly thinking that if he serves him well and keeps him happy, he won't have to worry about bonuses at all. Chun Mu asks Old Wong if he knows a mall where he can buy gifts for the weird. The ghost immediately guesses that with Boss Chen's status, he must be looking for a high-end mall. Chun Mu confirms that's right and says the higher end, the better. Old Wong quickly suggests a place in the suburbs called the Depraved Mall, which specializes in luxury goods. He recommends going there first to see if there's anything suitable. Chun Mu agrees and tells him to take him there. The driver tells him to sit tight because they're setting off, and the taxi shoots forward at high speed. Inside the car, Chun Mu thinks that he didn't expect Old Wong's attitude to be so positive. Money really does make ghosts push the millstone. Soon, they arrive at a strange and eerie location. Chun Mu steps out and asks if this is the place. It is indeed the Depraved Mall. Chun Mu tells Old Wong to stay and watch the car while he goes in to shop. The driver obediently agrees. As Chun Mu walks away, Old Wong thinks to himself that Boss Chun is truly meticulous. Once he leaves the Nether Taxi, he's only at the Ghost Soldier tier at best. If they encounter robbers, he's basically useless. But if he drives the car to rescue Boss Chun, the boss will gain the Nether Taxi's invincibility effect. No matter how strong the enemy is, they won't be able to harm him. The driver inwardly praises the plan as brilliant. Inside the mall, Chun Mu immediately feels a chill. It's clearly the peak of summer outside, yet the temperature inside has dropped to freezing. He realizes this is definitely another weird scenario. As he walks deeper inside, a staff member approaches and greets him warmly, asking what he would like to buy. Chun Mu asks if this is the Depraved Mall. The woman confirms it is. Then she coldly warns him not to think about running away. As long as he spends money here, he can leave safely. She even reaches out and grabs him, making it clear he's already inside the rules of this place. Chun Mu calmly says that these must be the mall's rules. The lady confirms and urges him to spend quickly. Chun Mu tells her to stop playing tricks. If he's not mistaken, even if he doesn't buy anything, he can still leave safely. She freezes and asks how he knows. Chun Mu explains that he has seen plenty of scenarios like this before. The rule says that as long as you buy something, you can leave the mall. That's actually a misdirection. People who stumble in for the first time panic and bite the bullet, choosing a product because they want to escape as soon as possible. But in the end, they violate the rules because they don't have enough ghost coins to pay. Finally, they can only leave their lives behind. Breaking the deadlock is simple. The rule says you can leave after spending, but it never says you can't leave if you don't spend. Even if he turns around and walks out right now, there's nothing they can do to him. The lady is visibly shocked at how clearly he understands everything. She admits he is very smart and says many people have fallen into the trap of the rules. Since he has already found the path of survival, he should leave quickly. She promises she won't stop him, but Chun Mu asks why he should leave. He says he came here to spend. The lady is stunned and asks if he's serious. Chun Mu confirms and tells her to take him to the most high-class counter. She warns him not to seek death. The cheapest items in the mall cost over 10,000 ghost coins. She she questions whether he can really afford it. Chun-Moo slowly pulls out a massive bundle of ghost coins and casually asks what she just said, claiming the wind was too loud and he didn't hear clearly. Her attitude changes instantly. She respectfully says she will take him to the 6th floor right away, since only the luxury goods there are worthy of his distinguished status. Chun-Moo nods approvingly and tells her to consider 20,000 ghost coins as a tip for entertaining him. He says he's in a hurry and tells her to lead the way. The lady carefully guides him by the shoulder and respectfully invites him upstairs. When they arrive at the 6th floor, she proudly introduces it, saying this floor gathers all the luxury brands in the ghost world, and he may choose to his heart's content. Chun-Moo slowly looks around, observing the displays one by one. Chun-Moo thinks that if he wants to move the Duke, he has to cater to his tastes. He recalls that aristocratic homes usually have wine cabinets. In his past life, one of Duke William's wishes was to collect high-end red wine. He walks up to a counter. The lady there politely asks what kind of wine he would like to buy and explains that all their products are custom-made according to Ghost's favorite tastes. In her heart, she sneers, thinking that if he can't afford it like those reckless youths before him, he will just become her dinner. Chun-Moo glances at the selection and calmly orders 100 bottles of their most expensive red wine. He adds that the packaging must be the most luxurious. The lady is stunned. Inwardly, she mocks him, thinking he must be another idiot planning to pay with human currency. She wonders how long he can keep pretending. Soon, she brings out a large number of beautifully packaged bottles and places them in front of him. She tells him everything is ready and that the total comes to 23 million. If he doesn't have the money, he can leave his head behind to offset the debt. Chun-Moo tells her not to scare him and says he can afford this small amount. He casually reveals a massive bundle of money. The lady, still smug and not even looking properly, reminds him that they only accept ghost coins. For 23 million, payment must be in ghost coins. Chun-Moo calmly asks what she thinks he is holding. When she finally opens her eyes and takes a closer look, she is completely stunned. She cannot believe it. The apocalypse has only lasted 1 month. How could he possibly have so many ghost coins? Chun-Moo asks if she has confirmed the amount. The lady nervously says that for such a huge transaction, the manager must personally be present. She asks him to wait a moment. Chun-Moo urges her to hurry because he has other matters to attend to. She rushes upstairs and reports to the manager that a customer downstairs just bought 100 bottles of high-end red wine in a single purchase. The manager's son, Kian, who manages the depraved mall, skeptically asks if she has mistaken one of those fools waving human currency for a real client again. She insists she verified it and says that more than 20 million in ghost coins are sitting downstairs right now. When the manager personally comes down and sees the pile of ghost coins, he is shocked. He can't believe they are real. He immediately straightens his appearance, puts on an elegant smile, and apologizes for keeping Mr. Chun waiting. He politely asks how he should address him. Chun-Moo replies that his surname is Chun. The manager congratulates Mr. Chun on spending over 20 million and declares him the depraved mall's first gold client. Chun-Moo calmly says he knows the manager is anxious, but there's no need to rush because he hasn't finished buying yet. The manager is stunned and asks what he means by not finished buying. Chun-Moo says of course he hasn't finished buying. The 100 bottles of wine are just the beginning. The manager immediately smiles and says that if he has any other needs, she can personally introduce them one by one. Chun-Moo waves his hand and says there's no need for the trouble. He tells her to bring out the most expensive jewelry in the shop. The manager is stunned for a second, but quickly regains her composure and respectfully agrees. In her heart, she thinks he's simply inhumanly rich. Soon, they present several top-tier pieces. One crystal necklace worth 1 million ghost coins is among the most expensive in the mall. Chun-Moo takes one look and tells them to wrap it up. He thinks that such a beautiful crystal necklace is perfect for the Duchess. He also points at several high-end watches and says he'll take those too. The manager quickly calculates and says the total comes to 5 million ghost coins. She politely asks him to rest for a moment while they package everything. As he waits, Chun-Moo looks around and thinks the goods here are indeed impressive. In the future, this place will definitely become a major consumption venue for countless weirds. A bold idea crosses his mind. Why not just buy the mall as well? He calmly asks whether the person in charge is present. He wants to discuss how much it would cost to sell the entire mall to him. The manager is completely caught off guard. In her heart, she screams that she treated him as a customer, but he wants to become her boss. She apologizes and explains that their leader is currently on a business trip. She doesn't doesn't have the authority to make such a decision. When he returns, she will notify Mr. Chun immediately and asks if that's acceptable. Chun-Moo nods and says that's fine. The manager then quickly adds that she can open a supreme black gold card for him. She explains that with this card, he can modify the mission rules of the depraved mall at will. It's equivalent to the authority of a scenario boss. She further promises that whenever he wishes to shop, they will clear the venue in advance to ensure his supreme consumption experience. Chun-Moo thanks her and tells her to open one for him. He also requests 50 shopping cards, each loaded with 5,000 ghost coins. It's clear he has serious plans in mind. The manager and all the staff bow deeply, respectfully bidding farewell to Supreme Black Gold VIP Mr. Chun and saying they look forward to his next visit. Outside, when the driver overhears the title Supreme Black Gold, he is completely shocked. He can only guess that such a level must require spending tens of millions to achieve. The driver quickly gets out and opens the door respectfully, telling boss to please get in. Once Chun-Moo is seated, the driver asks where they are heading next. Chun-Moo tells him not to rush and hands him a box instead. The driver looks confused and asks what it is. Chun-Moo tells him it's a gift for him and asks him to open it to see if he likes it. The ghost is stunned. When he opens the box, he gasps. Inside is a zombie Constantine watch. He immediately says this gift is too valuable and that he can't accept it. Chun-Moo laughs and tells him to keep it. As long as he follows him and works hard, there will be plenty of benefits in the future. The ghost feels deeply moved. In his heart, he compares Chun-Moo to his previous employers, who only exploited him and treated him like a beast of burden. Boss Chin, on the other hand, is generous and kind. He silently swears to follow Chun-Moo's lead in everything from now on. Chun-Moo tells him not to get too emotional and asks him to drive to the Mist Museum. The driver instantly agrees and steps on the accelerator. The nether taxi speeds off once again. As the car races through the road, Chun-Moo thinks about all the preparations he has made. This time, he must secure the death-heavy armor no matter what. Soon, the driver announces that they have arrived. Chun-Moo gets out and tells him to find a place nearby to rest. He will call him when he's done. The ghost driver nods and says no problem. Chun-Moo walks toward the entrance of the Mist Museum. A few other people are already gathered there. One of them notices him and says another one has arrived. Another asks if he also received the mission notification. Someone else suggests that he should cooperate with them, saying that having one more person means a higher chance of survival. Chun-Moo simply says he's not interested. In his heart, he thinks that betrayal and treachery are common in the apocalypse. If you team up with random people, you might not even know how you died. His indifference irritates the others. One of them mutters that the kid is a bit too arrogant. Another scoffs that he's acting cool at a time like this and says that without brothers to help him out, the only ending waiting for him is a dead end. The tension in the air thickens. Meanwhile, a frightened woman clings to a chubby man beside her and says this weird mission is too scary and that she's terrified. Her honey comforts her and says not to worry. This time, he managed to obtain extremely rare ghost coins, so they can definitely clear the mission. In his heart, though, he thinks about how he spent nearly 8 million just to get those 10 ghost coins. He's counting on them to save his life. The woman praises him sweetly, saying she knew he was the best and that she likes him so much. She begs him not to abandon her. He assures her that as long as she listens to him, once this weird mission ends, he'll divorce his wife and marry her. The atmosphere among the participants grows even more tense and complicated. After seeing the pair, Chun-Moo thinks he didn't expect that fatty to actually get his hands on ghost coins. The fatty notices Chun-Moo staring and angrily asks what he's looking at, asking if he has never seen a rich person before. Suddenly, the massive doors of the museum slowly creak open. A deep voice welcomes them to the Mist Museum and announces that they will act as guests visiting the secluded residence of Ghost General Duke William. They all step inside nervously. The voice continues, inviting them to enjoy the banquet the Duke has prepared to their heart's content. As they move further in and knock on an inner door, it opens slowly. Tall, dark figure appears. It is Ron, the Duke's butler. He calmly announces that new guests have arrived and invites them inside. The atmosphere becomes heavy and suffocating. To the others, even the butler looks terrifying. One whispers in fear, asking if that's really a ghost. Another admits it's their first time seeing one up close. The frightened woman nervously asks if he might eat them from behind while they're walking in. Her honey tries to act brave and says not to be afraid. He claims the butler is just a minion and wouldn't dare do anything to them. Ron quietly looks them over and thinks to himself that they're just like the previous batch, no manners and stingy. They're visiting Duke William, yet they don't even know to bring a gift. The butler glances at Chun-Mu and coldly asks why he's still standing outside. He says he doesn't want to waste time on someone who's about to die. Chun-Mu calmly asks if he is Duke William's butler. The butler confirms it and impatiently tells him to hurry up and wait in the hall instead of standing there like a statue. Before moving, Chun-Mu takes out a box and says he brought a small gift. The butler's expression changes slightly when he sees the exquisite packaging and the special ring box. Chun-Mu politely apologizes for intruding on his first visit and asks him to accept the small token. The butler takes it. When he opens the box and sees what's inside, his eyes widen. It's a roll ghost watch worth 300,000 ghost coins. He hesitates and says this gift should be for the Duke, not for a mere butler like him. Chun-Mu tells him it was specially prepared for him. He says the butler has loyally served the Duke for half his life, and such dedication is admirable. The butler is clearly moved. He accepts it out of respect. With a faint smile, he adds that although he is just a butler, he still holds some authority here. As long as Chun-Mu behaves as a proper guest, he can ensure he leaves the Mist Museum unscathed. Chun-Mu politely thanks him while inwardly celebrating. Spending around 100,000 ghost coins in exchange for a life-saving charm is more than worth it. The butler then casually asks whether the group that entered earlier are Chun-Mu's friends and whether they need special care. Chun-Mu immediately says he doesn't know them. The butler nods in understanding and explains that there is still some time before the Duke's banquet. To pass the time, there will be a small game. He asks everyone to move to the hall and rest. The atmosphere grows even heavier. The frightened woman clings tighter to her honey, saying she's scared and begging him not to leave her side. Her honey notices how friendly the butler is toward Chun-Mu and mutters in shock about how that kid managed to get on such good terms. The butler even personally serves Chun-Mu tea and invites him to drink. Chun-Mu calmly thanks him. The men who were mocking him earlier grow resentful. One of them says no wonder he acted so aloof. He already found a way in. Another suggests they need to rope him in. Even if he has no real skills, he could at least block a knife for them. The butler claps his hands to get everyone's attention. He announces that while the banquet is still being prepared, Lord Duke has arranged a game of hide and seek. Chun-Mu quietly mutters that it's finally here. The butler begins explaining the rules. Rule 1. The game lasts 2 hours. During this time, no one may leave the first floor area. Violators will be immediately obliterated. Rule 2. Once the game starts, security guards will act as hunters and patrol the exhibition hall. Anyone discovered by them will be executed. Rule 3. Except for the walls and the floor, all stationary objects are the Duke's exhibits. Anyone who dares to move or touch them will face the Duke's punishment. He wishes them good luck as the timer begins. The temperature in the hall drops sharply. The frightened woman trembles and asks why it suddenly got so cold, wondering if a ghost is about to appear. Her honey tells her not to panic and suggests they find a place to hide. One of the other participants realizes the problem and asks if not being allowed to touch exhibits means they can't even hide inside furniture. One of the men curses under his breath, saying those bastards clearly don't want them to live. Chun-Mu calmly thinks that the path to survival must be hidden within the rules. Since he has a death exemption medallion, he might as well use this opportunity to sharpen his ability to find loopholes. He slowly observes his surroundings. The air grows heavier and colder. Strange figures begin patrolling the exhibition hall. The frightened woman suddenly screams that there's a ghost. Her honey instantly slaps her and hisses at her to shut up. He scolds her for yelling so loudly and asks if she wants to be discovered. One of the weird hunters hears the noise and slowly approaches their direction, scanning the area. The woman trembles and silently begs not to be found, but it's too late. The hunter suddenly locks onto them and shouts that he found outsiders. The honey panics and screams. Without hesitation, he shoves the woman toward the hunter and tells her to hold it off for him. She cries and begs him not to leave her behind, but he's already sprinting away. A moment later, she realizes the ghost didn't immediately kill her. Elsewhere, more hunters corner the other participants. One of the men shouts that it's over because they've been spotted. Another quickly whispers a plan, saying one of them should stall the ghost while he circles around for a sneak attack. The first man agrees. He bravely rushes forward, grabs the ghost's hands, and shouts for his friend to hit it from behind with a stick. But the ghost coldly informs him that his partner ran away a long time ago. The man screams Zhao Xiang's name, accusing him of betrayal. In the distance, Zhao Xiang is already fleeing, muttering that he survived this long by being ungrateful and selling out his brothers. Back near the center of the hall, Chun-Mu keeps analyzing. Exhibits cannot be touched. Objects that cannot move are protected. Suddenly, it clicks. The path to survival is hidden within that rule. He glances at a nearby hunter approaching him. The ghost points at him and declares that he's found him, telling him to stop struggling and die quietly. Chun-Mu calmly gestures for the ghost to come closer. The hunter warns him that if he doesn't run, he will kill him. Chunmu just laughs. He tells the ghost that if it dares to touch him, it will be the one that dies. The ghost scoffs and asks what nonsense Chunmu is talking about. It questions how it could possibly die just by touching him. Even so, it hesitates. Chunmu calmly reminds it that the rules clearly stated that anyone who touches an exhibit will be executed. He then adds that all unmoving objects count as exhibits. So as long as he doesn't move, he is effectively an exhibit. He asks the ghost whether it still dares to touch him. The hunter freezes. It suddenly realizes he figured out the loophole in such a short time. If it touches him and triggers the Duke's punishment, it won't just fail its quota. It might be obliterated. Cursing under its breath, it decides not to risk it and turns away to hunt easier prey. Chunmu exhales softly and thinks he guessed correctly. Just then, a hand gently taps his shoulder. He stiffens for a split second. A polite voice informs him that his tea is ready. Chunmu nearly jumps, thinking for a moment that his judgment was wrong. The servant explains that it's cold and damp in the exhibition hall. Lord Butler was worried he might feel chilly, so he specifically sent a cup of hot tea to warm him up. Chunmu nods, accepts the cup, and asks the servant to thank Lord Butler for him. The servant adds that Lord Butler also instructed that if he gets bored, he may quit the game at any time. Across the hall, the frightened woman watches everything in disbelief. She didn't expect that aloof kid to be so formidable. In her heart, she thinks that if she can latch onto him, she'll definitely make it out alive. Without hesitation, she rushes toward Chunmu and clings to him, calling him handsome and saying she's scared, begging him to protect her. Chunmu tells her that instead of sucking up to him, she should go find that fat guy. The woman pleads with him not to be so heartless and says she can do anything. Chunmu coldly advises her to hurry and find a safe corner to hide in. He says he doesn't want his clothes splattered with her blood. As they argue, another participant watches from afar. He thinks bitterly that he had to risk his life and betray his own brother just to barely survive. Yet this guy can stand there leisurely while a woman throws herself at him. Jealousy twists inside him. He walks over with a fake smile and calls Chunmu brother. He says he can see he's quite capable and suggests the two of them team up. He claims he's the type who values loyalty the most. Chunmu casually suggests that he should team up with the woman instead so they can keep each other warm. The man turns to the woman and says that since Chunmu looks down on them, she should come with him. Even if the sky falls, he'll hold it up for her. The woman hesitates. She's frustrated that Chunmu seems determined not to help her. In the end, she decides to trust the other man this one time. Just then, the atmosphere grows colder again. Heavy footsteps echo through the hall. Someone whispers that it's not good. The security guards are coming. The man quickly tells her to follow him. They both run off in panic. Watching them leave, Chunmu shakes his head inwardly. The woman was already betrayed once, yet she still trusts others so easily. The hall becomes quiet around him. Elsewhere, the butler admires the watch Chunmu gifted him. He runs his fingers over it, praising the workmanship and materials. Truly is a luxury item. Another subordinate approaches and reports that the tea has been delivered. The butler asks whether the security guards have been instructed. He reminds him that Mr. Chun wants him to go easy during the game and that they cannot allow those fools to hurt him. The subordinate reports that Mr. Chun has already found the path to survival. The butler is stunned. The game has only just begun, yet he already discovered the shortcut to clearing the stage. He realizes Mr. Chun is far wiser than he initially thought. In his heart, the butler reflects that he originally assumed Mr. Chen's generosity was simply to buy protection and secure his life. But since Mr. Chun is both courageous and resourceful, there is no need to worry about him surviving such a low-level game at all. The butler reflects that he judged a gentleman's belly with a petty man's heart. He decides he must properly befriend Mr. Chun. He immediately orders his subordinate to serve Mr. Chun a fruit platter and bring him a chair. Then he changes his mind and tells him to move the sofa he's sitting on over to Mr. Chun directly. The subordinate hurries off to carry out the order. Back in the first-floor exhibition hall, the fruit platter is delivered. Chunmu calmly asks how much time remains before the game ends. The servant replies that there are 10 minutes left. Chunmu narrows his eyes. He knows this is the most insidious moment. The ghosts always take advantage of the time when players feel most relaxed, striking down those who think they've already escaped death. Nearby, one ghost reminds another not to touch the distinguished guest designated by Lord Butler. If Mr. Chun gets hurt, they might as well pack up and leave. The other ghost grumbles and says they should hurry and find the remaining players because his performance quota hasn't been met yet. Suddenly, a voice echoes from the speakers, announcing that 10 minutes remain until the game ends. Elsewhere in the hall, the man who betrayed others corners the frightened woman. He smirks and tells her that he protected her for so long and now that only 10 minutes remain, it's time she lets him have some fun. She flatters him, calling him the most reliable and manly. He boasts that none of the others can compare to him. She coyly asks him to be gentle. He agrees with a grin. Then she suddenly screams that something is behind him. He turns in confusion. A hunter stands there and declares that he has found them. Both of them panic instantly. The man shouts for her to help hold the ghost off. She curses him for abandoning her and falls to her knees, begging the ghost not to kill her. She offers to do anything. The ghost coldly replies that it only needs her life and grabs her. Time ticks down. A few minutes later, the surviving participants gather again near the center. One of the men sighs in relief and says the game is finally over. The fat man, who earlier boasted about his ghost coins, feels resentful. He thinks about how they were risking their lives to escape while Chun-Mu sat comfortably drinking tea. Another participant bitterly wonders why they are all here to survive the weird mission, yet Chun-Mu gets to be so at ease. Chun-Mu, however, thinks that a 50% survival rate is actually normal in this kind of scenario. The butler appears and announces that the hide-and-seek game has ended. He politely asks whether everyone enjoyed themselves. The atmosphere remains tense and heavy. The butler then informs them that Lord Duke has prepared a dinner banquet and invites them to follow him to the second floor. Chun-Mu is thinking the exact same thing. This is the key stage. As long as he raises the Duke's favorability high enough, securing the death-heavy armor will no longer be a problem. Soon, they arrive at the banquet hall. The butler announces that there are only 2 rules for the dinner. First, they must absolutely not behave rudely toward Duke William or Madame Emily. Second, they must finish all the food assigned to them by Duke William. Otherwise, there will be punishment. The butler then announces that Mr. Chen's seat is to the right of Duke William. Chun-Mu politely thanks him. Everyone else sits down nervously, their hearts pounding. The butler declares that since everyone is seated, the dinner will now formally begin. The grand doors open. Duke William enters with Madame Emily at his side. They take their seats at the head of the table. With a light flick of his hand, the Duke orders the servants to serve food to the distinguished guests. Dishes are brought out one after another. However, the food looks grotesque and smells even worse. One young man mutters that this isn't something humans can eat at all. Even the fat honey struggles to endure the stench. He wonders what the hell this stuff even is. The Duke smiles faintly and says that to show his sincerity, he will personally distribute the dishes. Before he can proceed, Chun-Mu stands up slightly and apologizes for the intrusion. He says he has prepared a small gift and would like to present it before dinner begins. The Duke is mildly surprised. He thinks that among so many people, there is finally one sensible guest. As the gift is brought forward, he notices the special ring box and grows curious. 2 boxes are placed in front of the Duke and Madame Emily. Chun-Mu respectfully invites Duke William and Madame Emily to open them. At first glance, the boxes look ordinary. The Duke assumes it won't be anything valuable and internally criticizes humans for lacking tact. But the moment he opens the box, a radiant glow shines out. He is stunned. Inside lies the limited edition Zombie Danton watch. Madame Emily opens hers and gasps in delight. It's the crystal necklace from the depraved mall, the very one she couldn't bear to buy for herself. Chun-Mu humbly asks the Duke and Madame to do him the honor of accepting these small gifts. The Duke, now visibly pleased, says Mr. Chun is too polite. He then turns to Madame Emily and asks her to personally distribute Mr. Chen's portion of food. Chun-Mu respectfully thanks her for the trouble. Madame Emily immediately brightens and tells the servants to serve Mr. Chun the fruitcake. The honey guy is dumbfounded. He can't believe this trick works like that. Chun-Mu calmly thanks them for the hospitality. The Duke replies that as long as Mr. Chun is satisfied, that is what matters. The honey guy starts thinking fast. If Chun-Mu can win favor by giving gifts, then he can do the same with ghost coins. In his mind, ghost coins are surely more precious than whatever that brat brought. Confident, he stands up and says he also prepared gifts for Duke William and Madame Emily. The Duke allows him to bring them forward. To everyone's horror, the man pulls ghost coins out from his dirty, smelly socks and presents them with both hands. The Duke's expression darkens instantly. He angrily accuses him of humiliating him and orders someone to drag him away. The man cries desperately, insisting ghost coins are more precious than what Chun-Mu offered. The Duke coldly states that the watch Mr. Chun gave is worth 1 million ghost coins. Trash like him isn't even fit to shine his shoes. As guards drag the man away, the Duke privately wonders how Chun-Mu has so much money. Nearby, Jiao secretly calculates that Chun-Mu must be a tycoon. If he can rob him after they leave this instance, he could live freely in the apocalypse. The Duke apologizes to Chun-Mu for the disturbance and suggests continuing dinner. Chun-Mu politely says it's no problem. Madame Emily casually asks whether that man was Chun-Mu's friend and whether she should look after him. Chun-Mu immediately clarifies that he doesn't know him. The Duke nods in understanding something and reminds everyone to finish their assigned food. Jiao sits there resentfully, thinking Chunmu could have saved him with a single word but chose not to. He vows revenge once they leave the scenario. He forces himself to eat the heavy, revolting food while Chunmu chats calmly with the Duke and Madame. Eventually, the butler announces that the mission has ended and the surviving guests may leave. Chunmu stands and thanks Duke William and Madame Emily for their warm hospitality. As he prepares to leave, the Duke quietly mentions that the man earlier seemed hostile toward him. He offers to arrange for someone to dispose of him. Chunmu thanks the Duke for his kindness but says there's no need. His subordinates are already waiting outside to handle it. The Duke is surprised. He didn't expect Mr. Chun to already have subordinates. Inwardly, he decides it's time to deepen this relationship. He tells Chunmu that he possesses a ghost general tier treasure and would like his help in appraising it. He wonders whether Mr. Chun has the time. Chunmu replies that being able to see a ghost general tier treasure would be his honor. In his heart, he thinks he has waited long enough. The Duke has finally taken the bait. The Duke then invites Mr. Chun to follow him. Outside the Mist Museum Manor Gate, Zao waits impatiently. He frowns, wondering why the doors are still closed and why he hasn't seen that brat come out yet. Suddenly, his stomach twists painfully. He curses under his breath, saying his stomach hurts so badly that he'd better go buy some medicine first. Just then, he notices a car parked nearby. He laughs and says luck really is on his side. In a place like this, there's actually a taxi. He quickly gets in and tells the driver to take him to the nearest hospital and drive fast. The driver calmly replies that he understands. While clutching his stomach, Zao grits his teeth and mutters that once he takes his medicine, he'll come back and slaughter that brat. The driver slowly turns his head and asks if the person he wants to slaughter is Mr. Chun. Zao freezes. He stammers that the driver is a ghost. The driver's expression turns cold. He says he only wants to confirm one thing and asks him again to answer the question. Desperate, Zao blurts out that there must be some mistake. Mr. Chun has a lot of ghost coins. As long as the driver doesn't kill him after robbing Chinmu, they can split the ghost coins. The driver's face darkens. He asks if Zao truly intends to make a move against his boss and whether he thinks he would let him off. Without hesitation, the driver slams his foot on the accelerator. Zao panics. He suddenly realizes that Brat actually hired a ghost as his bodyguard. He desperately tries to open the car door and shouts that he wants to get off. The driver's eyes glow faintly. A cold voice echoes that he provoked someone he shouldn't have and should be more careful in his next life. Moments later, Zao's screams fade into silence. Back inside Duke William's study, the Duke politely invites Mr. Chun in. Chunmu immediately notices the large wine cabinet on the wall is completely empty. He smiles inwardly. It seems his guess was correct. He casually remarks that surely Lord Duke is also a lover of wine. It's a pity for such a grand wine cabinet to remain empty. The Duke sighs and explains that although he was once titled Duke for his meritorious service in the Ghost World War, he has long since fallen into decline. Chunmu nods respectfully and says he admires the Duke's character. As a small token of respect, he specially prepared some red wine in advance. With a wave of his hand, bottles of exquisite red wine are presented and carefully arranged into the cabinet. The once empty shelves are quickly filled. The Duke stares in disbelief. He lifts a bottle, inhales the aroma, and exclaims that it is truly good wine, excellent wine. The Duke holds the wine bottle with trembling hands. In his heart, he can't believe that a famous wine worth millions of ghost coins was given to him purely out of respect for his character. His eyes grow moist. He declares that he is determined to make friends with Mr. Chun today. He says he also has a gift and asks Mr. Chun to wait a moment. Chunmu immediately realizes the timing is perfect. The favorability has reached its peak. Soon, the Duke brings out a set of golden armor. The moment Chunmu lays eyes on it, he can feel the dense and powerful ghost aura emanating from it. The Duke explains that this armor is a treasure he collected over half his life. It once accompanied him through life and death on the battlefield. It is Ghost King tier. As long as one wears it, they can be immune to all damage from anything below Ghost King tier. More importantly, it can also override the power of rules once per month. The cooldown period is 1 month. Chunmu carefully confirms whether that means that even if he violates the rules inside a weird scenario, he can be exempt from punishment while wearing it. The Duke nods and says that is correct. He adds that Mr. Chun has given him so many generous gifts, and he has nothing else worthy to repay him with. He insists that Chunmu accept this armor as a return gift. The moment Chunmu takes it, he can clearly feel a powerful ghost aura enveloping and protecting his body. However, he does not immediately accept it for free. He respectfully says the armor is far too precious to take without compensation. He then places 10 million ghost coins coins in front of the Duke and says to consider it a purchase. The Duke is stunned speechless at the sight of 10 million ghost coins. In his heart, he admires Chun-Mu even more. Not greedy for petty gains and unwilling to let a friend suffer losses, Mr. Chun truly has noble character. Moved, the Duke takes out a personal token and gives it to Chun-Mu as a symbol of their friendship. He says that if Mr. Chun ever encounters danger, he can use this token to summon him, and he will immediately appear at his side. Chun-Mu accepts the token, realizing this is an unexpected bonus. With both the Ghost King tier armor and the Duke's summoning token, his safety has increased dramatically. He thinks that if he ever encounters a situation that can't be resolved with ghost coins, he can simply summon the Duke to handle it. Then Chun-Mu frankly says he plans to purchase a few more weird scenarios to stabilize his assets, but he doesn't know where to begin. He respectfully asks whether Lord Duke has any brilliant suggestions. The Duke thinks for a moment before saying that, personally, he believes a school is a weird scenario with very good development prospects. He explains that the needs of ghosts are actually no different from ordinary people. A good school is also an indispensable resource for high-level ghosts. Chun-Mu agrees and says that the children of high-level ghosts are just like humans too. They also scramble to get into good school district housing. The Duke says Chun-Mu is absolutely right. As long as the school he buys is good enough, countless high-level ghosts will actively try to curry favor with him just to get an admission opportunity for their children. By then, if Chun-Mu ever asks them for favors, it would be as simple as breathing. Chun-Mu thanks the Duke for the guidance, and the Duke tells him he's being too polite since they're friends after all. After talking for a while, Chun-Mu says it's getting late and that he doesn't want to disturb the Duke and Madam's rest any longer. As he prepares to leave, the Duke says the journey back is far and asks why he doesn't just stay the night and leave tomorrow morning instead. But Chun-Mu politely refuses and says he still has some urgent matters to deal with. Later, outside the Misted Museum Manor Gate, the driver is already waiting. As Chun-Mu leaves, the madam reminds him that the mountain is surrounded by mist and tells him to be careful on the way back. Chun-Mu thanks her for the reminder, but before leaving, he suddenly hands over a card and says that if the Duke and Madam ever want to go shopping and spend money, they can use it. The madam immediately becomes excited after seeing the card and says it's the black gold card from the depraved mall. Chun-Mu tells her the limit isn't very high and asks her not to mind it, but she says he's being too polite again. Deep down, she can't help thinking that he's handsome and rich, and she feels herself getting charmed by him more and more. As Chun-Mu leaves, the driver opens the car door and says he already took care of that punk according to the instructions. Chun-Mu simply praises him and gets into the car. As they drive away, the driver asks where they're going next. Chun-Mu replies that they're heading to the midnight cafeteria. The driver agrees, and soon they arrive at the midnight cafeteria, where many people are already gathered. A staff lady says that they do not accept his acquisition request, but the guy instantly loses his temper and starts smashing everything nearby. He angrily says that a broken cafeteria actually dares to steal business from his 5-star hotel. Right then, Chun-Mu arrives and asks what all the noise is about. The staff lady immediately feels relieved and says the boss finally arrived because someone has been causing trouble in the shop. Chun-Mu asks what exactly is going on. The man then looks at Chun-Mu and asks if he's the human who bought the midnight cafeteria. At the same time, one of the staff members quietly explains that he's the owner of the 5-star hotel next door. Apparently, he has always wanted to buy the cafeteria at a dirt cheap price and has already come here several times before. The 5-star hotel owner then mocks Chun-Mu, saying that a weak human actually dares to do business with ghosts and asks if he's tired of living. But Chun-Mu fires back immediately, saying the guy doesn't have much ability, yet his mouth is huge. Now completely irritated, the hotel owner says he'll buy the cafeteria for 30,000 ghost coins, and if Chun-Mu refuses, then he shouldn't blame him for getting impolite. The staff lady is shocked and says he must be dreaming. The other workers also jump in, saying he's clearly here just to cause trouble, while another points out that this is basically robbery in broad daylight. Hearing this, the hotel owner gets even angrier and releases his aura on the spot. He says that he's a ghost captain too and asks if these lowly ghost citizens really want to fight him. He then explains that he never acted before because the previous owner was also a ghost captain. But now that the cafeteria belongs to a weak human who can't even trust a chicken, crushing him would be as easy as stepping on an ant. Chun-Mu, however, stays completely calm and tells him that he'll count to 3. If the man disappears from his sight immediately, he won't hold it against him. The hotel owner sneers and asks what a mere human can possibly do to him. Then he mocks Chun-Mu by asking if he plans to jump up and hit his knee. A second later, power starts gathering in his hand as he declares that it's time for Chun-Mu to die. The staff lady instantly panics and shouts, "Boss!" just as the hotel owner throws a punch toward Chun-Mu. But suddenly, armor appears around Chun-Mu's body, and the hotel owner gets blasted backward on impact, screaming as he crashes away. Chun-Mu coldly says that this is just a piece of trash who barely reached Ghost Captain tier, yet still dares to act arrogant in front of him. him. The ghost owner is completely stunned. In his mind, this shouldn't even be possible. He can't understand how an ordinary human blocked his attack so easily. Still unwilling to accept it, he stands up again and says that Chun-Mu must be relying on some defensive item. He then tells him that if he really has ability, he should stop using defensive gear and fight fairly. Chun-Mu immediately points out how ridiculous that sounds, saying that a ghost is actually asking a human to fight barehanded and still talking about fairness with a straight face. He says the other man might be shameless, but he still cares about his own dignity. Then Chun-Mu suddenly takes out another item and says this token shouldn't count as defensive gear, right? The moment the hotel owner sees it, his expression changes completely. He instantly recognizes it as Ghost General Williams' exclusive token. At that moment, his mind goes blank. He can't understand how a mere human could possibly possess something like that, and he starts wondering what Chun-Mu's real background actually is. Then Chun-Mu calmly asks Boss 2 if he can teach him how to use the token, since he honestly doesn't know much about it himself. The moment the hotel owner sees Chun-Mu holding that token, his entire attitude changes instantly. He hurriedly lowers his head and says, "No, Boss Chun, he'll get lost immediately." Everyone watching the scene is completely stunned. Just a second ago, this guy was acting like he owned the whole street, and now he's bowing so hard his spine is probably filing for resignation. Then things somehow get even more ridiculous. The hotel owner suddenly notices the dirty floor and says that Boss Chen's floor is dirty, so he'll wipe it clean with his body. Right after saying that, he literally starts rolling all over the ground. Even the chef is left speechless. He says he can't believe the boss not only took a punch from a ghost captain head-on, but also possesses Ghost General Williams' personal token. At the same time, another staff member rushes over and says Chun-Mu is the most top-tier human he has ever seen. The staff lady, however, is still worried. She asks if they're really just going to let this guy leave like that. What if he secretly comes back and causes trouble again? Chun-Mu simply tells her to wait. The five-star hotel owner immediately turns around nervously and asks if Boss Chin has any other orders. Chun-Mu then asks him if he runs a hotel because he's suddenly a little interested in it. The man instantly understands what Chun-Mu means and quickly says he's willing to transfer the hotel under his name at a low price as long as Chun-Mu spares his life. Chun-Mu says that since the man is smart enough to understand the situation, he won't take advantage of him. Paying market price will be enough. The hotel owner almost looks like he's about to cry from relief and repeatedly thanks Boss Chun over and over again. Then he hurriedly takes out the transfer papers and respectfully asks Chun-Mu to sign them. After Chun-Mu signs everything, the former hotel owner thanks him one last time before quickly leaving the area. Just like that, Chun-Mu somehow becomes the new owner of the five-star hotel too. The first thing he does afterward is tell the staff to convert the hotel into a branch of the cafeteria. The staff lady immediately agrees. After sitting down, Chun-Mu asks about today's income and expenses. He even wonders if they lost money again. But the staff lady surprises him by saying that not only did they avoid losing money, they actually earned 200,000 ghost coins today. Hearing that number, even Chun-Mu is shocked. He says it's only been one day, so how did they suddenly go from negative profit to positive revenue so quickly? The staff lady explains that it's all thanks to a new dish developed by the head chef. At that moment, the chef walks forward and politely greets Chun-Mu. The staff lady then explains that the seasoning used in the chef's new cold dish, Ghost Honey Lung Slices, perfectly matches ghost tastes. The moment the dish was released, diners immediately bought everything out. After hearing the dish's name, Chun-Mu is stunned internally. In his memory, Ghost Honey Lung Slices was supposed to become the future signature dish of the Midnight Hotel much later on. Yet somehow, its development happened far earlier than expected. Chun-Mu asks the chef if she just invented the dish recently, but the chef quickly shakes her head and explains that she actually developed it a long time ago. The only reason she never revealed it was because the previous boss was a complete skinflint who made everyone work endlessly without paying properly, so she kept the recipe hidden until now. The chef then explains that Chun-Mu is completely different from the previous owner. Not only did he stop exploiting her, but he even paid all of her unpaid wages. As she thinks about it, she admits that she's genuinely happy right now, so she wants to do her best to help the cafeteria earn more money. Chun-Mu, however, asks her if she'll even have time to rest if customer traffic keeps increasing like this. The chef looks confused for a second and basically asks, "Rest? What's that?" Even the staff lady joins in and points out that ghosts normally work on a 24-hour schedule anyway. At this point, Chun-Mu tells Manager Lee to gather all the employees because he wants to hold a meeting. Manager Lee quickly agrees, and after everyone gathers together, Chun-Mu asks if everyone is present. Then he announces that, in order to thank everyone for their hard work at the Midnight Cafeteria, he has decided to introduce a new employee benefit system. The employees instantly start whispering among themselves. One staff lady quietly asks another worker what benefits even are and whether they can be eaten. The other guy is just as confused and says the boss already pays them wages, so why would he give benefits too? Another employee even says that they're already getting wages and benefits together, so doesn't that mean the boss gets nothing out of it? Hearing all this, Chun-Moo can't help thinking that these ghosts have been exploited for so long that they've started convincing themselves this treatment is normal. Manager Lee quickly tells everyone to quiet down and listen to what the boss has to say first. Then, with a flick of his hand, Chun-Moo gives everyone a depraved mall shopping card. He explains that each card already contains 5,000 ghost coins, and starting from now on, he'll add another 1,000 ghost coins every month. The entire room freezes for a second. One of the staff members stares at the card in complete disbelief and says the depraved mall is a high-end shopping mall that she wouldn't even dare enter after working her whole life. Another employee immediately bursts into tears and says he can finally go home and tell his mother he's not a failure anymore. At this point, even Manager Lee becomes emotional and tells Chun-Moo that he treats them far too well. But Chun-Moo says not to get excited yet because he still hasn't finished speaking. Then he announces that starting tomorrow, every employee's daily working hours will be reduced to 20 hours, and for the remaining 4 hours, everyone can rest however they want. The moment those words come out, the entire cafeteria goes silent. Nobody can even process what they just heard. To these ghosts, 4 hours of rest almost sounds more unbelievable than the shopping cards. Seeing everyone standing there in shock, Chun-Moo looks around and asks if the rest time is still too little. The moment everyone hears they can actually rest, the entire cafeteria erupts in excitement. One ghost is completely confused and asks what rest even means because he's worked for 50 years, and this is the first time he has ever heard that word. Another ghost looks genuinely troubled and says they can rest for 4 whole hours every day now, but there's no way he can even spend that much free time. At this point, one employee loudly declares that from now on, he's Chun-Moo's most loyal worker. The other female employees quickly rush forward too, all saying me too one after another. Meanwhile, Chun-Moo starts thinking ahead. He imagines that once his business expands, he'll introduce 2-day weekends, 6 insurances, and 1 housing fund, guaranteed 8-hour shifts, and absolutely no overtime. By then, he'll build his own ghost empire step by step. Honestly, these ghosts are so overworked that basic labor laws probably look like forbidden divine techniques to them. Then one employee suddenly raises his hand and calls Chun-Moo the living reincarnation of hell itself. Another immediately agrees and says the boss is basically the living king of hell walking on earth. Soon, the whole crowd starts calling him the living king of hell one after another. One guy even says that after the boss dies, he'll definitely descend directly into the deepest underworld. Chun-Moo quickly stops them and says they should just stick to calling him boss. Even he can't help thinking that, although they clearly mean well, none of those titles sound remotely like compliments. The ghosts immediately obey and all shout, "Yes, boss," before returning to work full of energy. As Chun-Moo watches them leave, he looks at the shining ring on his hand and thinks that this feeling of controlling everything, where life and death depend on a single thought, is strangely addictive. Then he suddenly notices one worker enthusiastically scrubbing the floor while chanting, heave ho, like his life depends on it. Seeing how spotless the place has become, Chun-Moo realizes the reward system is way more effective than expected. After that, he tells Manager Lee to help him find a staff dormitory because he'll just stay there for the night. Manager Lee immediately offers to take him to her private dormitory instead. Chun-Moo simply agrees. Soon, they arrive at the dormitory entrance, and Manager Lee nervously tells him that this is her room. After entering, Chun-Moo casually tells her to head back to work now. Manager Lee awkwardly agrees before slowly leaving the room. The moment the door closes, however, her expression instantly changes and she starts crying internally. She had secretly thought something romantic might finally happen between them tonight. Meanwhile, inside the room, Chun-Moo lies down and thinks that it's already rest time, yet she still wanted to slack off from work. In his mind, there's absolutely no chance of that happening. The next day, Chun-Moo arrives at his school while quietly thinking about what's about to happen tonight. He knows this school will soon be invaded by ghosts and eventually become the future super elite academy known as Dark Knight High School. In the future, the school's development speed will be terrifying. In less than half a year, it will rise to become one of the top high schools across more than a dozen nearby cities. Because of that, Chun-Moo knows he absolutely has to seize this opportunity and buy the school before anyone else realizes its value. Right then, a voice suddenly shouts at him from nearby. A man angrily asks which class he belongs to and demands to know why he's wandering around the playground instead of attending class. Chun-Moo turns around in confusion, wondering who the guy is talking to. But the moment the man sees his face clearly, immediately. His entire expression changes instantly. He blurts out Chun-Mu's name on the spot. Chun-Mu calmly asks if Director Jiang needs something from him. The second Director Jiang recognizes him. Countless thoughts immediately explode inside his head. He starts remembering every past interaction they had and instantly realizes how badly he messed up before. Back then, he constantly made things difficult for Chun-Mu without knowing his background. Now that he knows Chun-Mu is connected to ghosts, Director Jiang feels like his soul is about to leave his body. In his mind, if Chun-Mu really held a grudge, couldn't he just casually ask a ghost to make him disappear one day? What makes it even worse is that Director Jiang originally wanted to use Chun-Mu to build connections with ghosts in the first place. But instead of getting close to him, he somehow managed to offend him at every possible opportunity. So his attitude changes at lightning speed. Director Jiang immediately puts on a warm smile and politely asks student Chun-Mu to forgive his poor manners. He even asks if there's anything in the school that needs improvement. Chun-Mu simply replies that he has no opinions. Then he casually asks if he's late for class. Director Jiang instantly says no and claims it's obviously not Chun-Mu's fault at all. In fact, he blames the school's unreasonable class schedule instead, and even says he'll arrange for someone to fix it immediately. Chun-Mu can't help laughing a little and tells him there's really no need for that. He says Director Jiang should just continue with his work while he walks around the school a bit longer. Director Jiang immediately agrees with a smile so wide it almost reaches the back of his head. He even tells Chun-Mu that if he needs anything at all, he can directly come find him in the office. As Director Jiang leaves, he practically looks like he's floating away from happiness. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu watches him leave and thinks about how fast his attitude changed. It's obvious that Director Jiang desperately wants to use him to curry favor with the ghosts. Then, Chun-Mu arrives at the entrance of Senior Class 1. Chun-Mu arrives at the classroom entrance and calmly reports himself in. The teacher immediately notices him and warmly tells Chun-Mu to come in quickly. The moment he walks toward his seat, the students behind him instantly start whispering among themselves. One guy says he can't believe Chun-Mu was late for this long. Yet not only is that tigress of a teacher not angry, she's actually being gentle with him. Another student says Chun-Mu is a big shot who can even buy weird scenarios now. At this point, even the dean probably turns into a complete pushover the moment he sees him. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu casually tells Teacher Song to just continue the lecture normally. Teacher Song immediately agrees and tells the class to open their textbooks to page 3. But the students clearly aren't paying attention anymore. One of them says that there's no way ordinary people like them can understand what a big shot like Chun-Mu is thinking anyway, so they should probably just focus on class honestly. Another student looks confused and asks why Chun-Mu still even comes to school when he's already this powerful. Right at that moment, a strange darkness suddenly starts spreading through the area. Chun-Mu immediately realizes the ghost invasion is beginning. The atmosphere inside the classroom rapidly changes. A few girls start rubbing their arms and saying it suddenly became freezing cold. Another student nervously looks outside and asks why the sky suddenly turned dark. Then one girl suddenly checks her notification and immediately screams in terror. A weird mission notification has appeared. It announces that the deadly exam is about to begin. All examinees who received a slip of paper must prepare to enter the exam within the next 10 minutes. The moment the notification appears, the entire classroom falls into chaos. Students immediately start panicking and running around while shouting that they didn't receive a slip of paper and need to escape quickly. One girl desperately tells everyone not to panic and says the teachers should go first. But the students who actually received the notification are already on the verge of breaking down. One student nervously asks when the exam will begin. Another prays for God to save them. Someone else curses their terrible luck, while one girl starts crying and says she doesn't want to take the exam and definitely doesn't want to die. But in the middle of all this chaos, one student suddenly points at Chun-Mu like he just discovered humanity's final hope. He loudly says everyone should stop panicking because Chun-Mu is basically a god. As long as they follow him, he'll definitely keep them alive. The atmosphere changes instantly. A male student immediately rushes over and asks Chun-Mu if his strength is good enough, even offering to help if more muscle is needed. At the same time, a girl nervously moves closer to Chun-Mu and says that as long as he helps her clear the mission, she's willing to do absolutely anything for him. Seeing how everyone suddenly changed their attitudes, Chun-Mu quietly thinks about how nobody cares about you when you're powerless, but the moment you become important, even distant strangers start acting close to you. Right then, another notification appears. It announces that the exam duration will last for 2 hours, and during that time, nobody is allowed to leave the classroom. The rules explain that a ghost is hiding among them. To pass the exam, they must identify and kill the hidden ghost. However, if the number of survivors drops below half, the exam will immediately end, and the remaining survivors will be allowed to leave safely. But if the ghost is not discovered before the time limit ends, wins, the exam will be considered a failure, and half of the remaining examinees will be randomly killed. Before anyone can even calm down, another voice suddenly echoes through the classroom. It explains that every desk drawer contains a utility knife. If the knife successfully wounds a ghost, black smoke will emerge from the wound. However, attacking the ghost will also completely enrage it, causing it to launch indiscriminate attacks against everyone nearby. Then another hint notification appears. It says that, just like humans, the ghost possesses 4 limbs and cannot be distinguished by appearance alone. Until it is discovered, it normally will not move. After reading the rules, one student mutters that this is basically the exam question itself. A girl immediately points out the horrifying problem with that. If they guess wrong, wouldn't they just end up slaughtering innocent people? Another student desperately asks how they're even supposed to tell the difference in the first place. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu calmly analyzes the situation in his mind. He realizes the rules are exactly the same as they were in his previous life. The entire exam is designed to force people into testing human nature itself. In reality, there are only 2 ways to survive this exam. Either sacrifice people through trial and error until the ghost reveals itself, or accurately identify the hidden ghost and eliminate it in a single strike. Then one student suddenly comes up with a terrifying idea. He points out that the rules already explained how to identify the ghost using the knives. So, according to him, everyone should simply stab each other one by one. Whoever releases black smoke must be the ghost. The moment those words come out, the entire classroom becomes even colder than before. One panicking student immediately objects and reminds everyone that the rules clearly said the ghost would launch indiscriminate attacks if it got injured. He says they absolutely cannot act recklessly before identifying the ghost properly. Another student impatiently asks what they're supposed to do instead. But before anyone can answer, the atmosphere suddenly becomes tense again. One guy quietly pulls out the utility knife behind another student's back. Then he suddenly points at a frightened girl hiding in the corner and accuses her of being the disguised ghost because she's been sitting there motionless the entire time. The girl instantly panics and desperately insists that she's not the ghost. But the guy clearly doesn't care anymore. He starts walking toward her while saying that whether she's the ghost or not, they'll know after one stab anyway. Just as he's about to attack her, Chin-Mu suddenly grabs his wrist midair and coldly tells him to get back to his seat. The guy immediately gets angry and says Chun-Mu only cleared the cafeteria mission earlier through pure luck. According to him, Chun-Mu is acting like some kind of savior now. But Chun-Mu calmly explains that the ghost will not attack on its own initiative, so as long as nobody acts rashly, everyone is temporarily safe. The student can only grit his teeth in frustration while Chun-Mu forces him back. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu silently thinks about how this mission played out in his previous life. Back then, the situation eventually devolved into complete mutual slaughter, and even until the very end, nobody successfully identified the hidden ghost. This time, however, Chun-Mu is determined to clear the mission successfully. As he continues studying the rules carefully, another student suddenly looks toward the classroom across the hall and notices total chaos over there too. He points out that they still haven't found the ghost either. At the same time, one girl nervously says that an entire hour has already passed, meaning they're all getting closer and closer to death. The irritated student from earlier instantly snaps at her and tells her to stop jinxing everyone already. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu keeps analyzing the wording of the rules in his head. Generally will not move, has 4 limbs. Then a thought suddenly flashes through his mind. Ever since the exam started, every single classmate in the room has already moved from their seats at least once. Everyone except one person. Chun-Mu slowly turns his gaze toward the girl still lying motionless nearby. At that moment, everything finally clicks together in his mind. Right then, the announcement system suddenly echoes throughout the building. It announces that Class 3 has failed the exam and that half of the surviving students have already been eliminated. The atmosphere inside the classroom instantly collapses into panic again. One student stands up in despair and says it's over because they're all going to die trapped inside the classroom. Another student turns toward Chun-Mu in frustration and demands to know what he has to say now. But Chun-Mu calmly tells everyone not to panic because he has already figured out who the ghost is. The girl lying there slowly raises her head in shock. Another student immediately blurts out Wang Fang's name and asks if she's really the ghost. Then he suddenly remembers that Chun-Mu literally protected her earlier. The frustrated student from before immediately bursts into laughter and says he knew it from the beginning. According to him, everyone should have listened to him earlier. Then he excitedly urges Chun-Mu to hurry up and slash her already. The girl immediately bursts into tears and desperately insists that she's not the ghost. She begs Chun-Mu to believe her. At the same time, Chun-Mu slowly picks up the utility knife, making the entire classroom hold its breath. Even the atmosphere turns tense enough that nobody dares to speak loudly anymore. The girl keeps trembling in fear while Chun-Mu calmly walks forward. Everyone thinks he's about to slash her at any second. But suddenly, instead of attacking the girl, Chun-Mu drives the knife directly into the desk beside her. For a split second, the whole classroom freezes in confusion. The frustrated student instantly explodes and asks Chunmu what the hell he's doing. He yells that they told him to stab the girl, so why is he attacking a desk instead? Chunmu calmly tells everyone not to move and simply says to look carefully. Then, as the knife remains lodged in the desk, a terrifying aura suddenly starts spreading throughout the classroom from inside the furniture itself. Dark energy begins leaking out everywhere, making the entire room tremble. The girl stares at the desk in horror and screams that the ghost is actually there. At that moment, even the frustrated student is completely stunned. He curses in disbelief after realizing the desk itself was the hidden ghost the entire time. The class had spent all this time suspecting each other while the real ghost had been sitting silently in front of them all along. Then the announcement system suddenly echoes through the classroom once again. It announces that Chunmu from Class 1 successfully found the target and cleared the exam. Even more shocking, every single member of the class survived. The moment the announcement confirms that everyone survived, the entire classroom explodes with excitement. Students immediately start cheering, hugging each other, and celebrating like they just escaped death itself, which honestly they did. One student excitedly shouts that they finally survived. Two girls hugging each other scream that they actually won. After calming down a little, another student quickly asks Chunmu how he figured out the ghost was the desk in the first place. Someone else says Chunmu is seriously unbelievable because everyone had been convinced the ghost disguised itself as a human the whole time. Chunmu then explains that the answer was actually hidden inside a word trap within the rules. One student looks confused and asks what he means by a word trap. Chunmu calmly explains that the rules only stated the ghost had 4 limbs like a human, but nowhere did it actually say the ghost itself had to be human. Because of that wording, everyone subconsciously assumed the ghost transformed into a person. That misunderstanding completely misled the class and almost caused everyone to start killing each other. He then points out the most important clue. The rules also stated that the ghost generally would not move on its own. So Chunmu carefully observed the classroom the entire time. Every student had shifted positions at least slightly during the panic. Even the desks and chairs had been bumped around in the chaos. But there was only one thing in the entire classroom that never moved even a single bit from beginning to end. That desk. Chunmu explains that even when Wang Feng sat beside it, the desk itself never shifted by even a millimeter. That was the moment he became certain it was the hidden ghost. One student immediately says he's genuinely impressed because staying calm enough to notice details like that in such a terrifying situation is insane. Chunmu then tells everyone that since the mission is over, they should all head home as soon as possible. The school has already been invaded by ghosts, so there's no reason to keep attending classes anymore. Another student quickly agrees and says he definitely doesn't want to get eaten by ghosts at school. The moment someone yells, "Let's go," the entire class immediately starts rushing out together. As Chunmu watches the chaos around him, he quietly thinks that it's unfortunate the other classes weren't as lucky as his. That's just how cruel the weird apocalypse is. Even the people who survive are often left mentally broken afterward. As he walks through the hallway, Chunmu notices one girl laughing hysterically by herself, clearly unable to process everything that just happened. Soon after, Chunmu arrives at the principal's office and politely announces his presence before entering. Inside, the principal sits there while releasing a heavy ghostly aura throughout the room. The principal stares at Chunmu and says he must be the only human who successfully passed the exam just now. Then he coldly asks how Chunmu dares to walk into the office so casually. Chunmu calmly replies by asking why he wouldn't dare. He says he simply came here to discuss business. The principal immediately sneers and says Chunmu isn't worthy of that. He warns him not to become arrogant just because he used a little intelligence to survive. According to the principal, humans are ultimately destined to become nothing more than food for ghosts. This time, Chunmu merely managed to survive by exploiting the exam rules and finding a path to stay alive. Chunmu doesn't waste any time. He directly throws a thick bundle of money onto the table and tells the principal not to rush into refusing him because this is simply a small meeting gift. The principal instantly rises from his seat in shock after seeing the amount. He realizes the stack alone contains at least tens of thousands of ghost coins. His entire attitude changes almost immediately. The principal suddenly acts like he just remembered who Chunmu is and warmly asks if he's student Chunmu from the midnight cafeteria. He explains that while eating there recently, he heard many ghosts talking about him. Chunmu calmly confirms that it's indeed him. At this point, the principal becomes unbelievably polite. He quickly invites Chunmu to sit down properly and praises him for not only being intelligent but also incredibly wealthy at such a young age. According to the principal, Chunmu is truly a young hero. Then the principal even takes out tea he claims to have treasured for decades and personally offers Chunmu a cup. Seeing how cooperative the principal suddenly became, Chunmu decides to increase the pressure a little more. He casually reveals a collection-grade bottle of red wine from the depraved mall. The principal's eyes almost pop out instantly. He hurriedly grabs the bottle and internally screams after recognizing how valuable it is. But before he can even calm down, his eyes suddenly land on another object, a ghost general's token. The moment he sees it, his heart practically skips a beat. Chun-Mu lightly apologizes and says he accidentally dropped one of his personal belongings. Meanwhile, the principal's thoughts are already spiraling out of control. He becomes completely convinced that the token truly belongs to a ghost general. At that moment, he finally understands why Chun-Mu has been acting so fearlessly this entire time. Clearly, someone terrifying is backing him from behind. Now fully cautious, the principal politely asks what kind of business student Chun wants to discuss today. Chun-Mu then calmly says he wants to purchase Dark Night School for 100 million ghost coins. The principal instantly spits out everything in his mouth straight toward Chun-Mu in shock. Chun-Mu barely dodges in time. The principal hurriedly asks if Chun-Mu is joking, but Chun-Mu calmly says he's completely serious and genuinely intends to buy the school. The principal quickly points out that the school's current market value isn't even 50 million. Chun-Mu immediately responds that if that's the case, then the principal has even less reason to reject such an offer. At this point, the principal falls into deep thought. Once the weird apocalypse fully arrives, elite ghost families will absolutely fight each other for school admission quotas. The future value of Dark Night School could become terrifyingly high. At the same time, Chun-Mu is thinking exactly the same thing internally. He already knows that once the weird apocalypse completely descends, noble ghosts will desperately compete for their children to enroll here. So if he can secure ownership of the school right now for only 100 million, the future profits and influence waiting for him will be far beyond imagination. Principal Chen hesitates for a moment before saying that it's not that he doubts Chun-Mu, but 100 million ghost coins is an enormous amount of money. He asks if Chun-Mu can really produce that kind of wealth. Chun-Mu calmly replies that Principal Chen doesn't need to worry about that at all. He says he may have many flaws, but the one thing he definitely doesn't lack his money. Right after saying that, Chun-Mu directly showers the room with stacks of ghost coins. The principal stares at the mountain of money falling everywhere and is completely stunned on the spot. For a moment, he can barely process what he's seeing. Honestly, Chun-Mu spends money the way rich villains in dramas throw flower petals. Principal Chen looks at the ghost coins scattered all over the office and mutters in disbelief, asking if all of this is actually real. Chun-Mu then calmly asks if this is enough now. At this point, Principal Chen can no longer deny Chun-Mu's financial strength. He admits that Chun-Mu absolutely has enough money to purchase the school. However, even after admitting that, he still says he cannot sell Dark Night School to him. And judging from his expression, he looks genuinely conflicted and troubled about it too. The moment Chun-Mu hears that answer, his expression turns colder. He immediately asks why. Principal Chen finally explains the real situation. He says that he's actually only the acting principal of Dark Night High School. The true owner is the school director, and that person absolutely despises humans. Because of that hatred, 2 additional special rules were attached to the school itself. Chun-Mu is slightly surprised and asks what kind of special rules those are. Clearly, even he didn't expect something like this. Principal Chen explains that the first rule states that if a human wants to purchase Dark Night High School, they only need to pay 1/10 of the market price. The moment Chun-Mu hears that, he instantly realizes something is wrong. He calmly says there's no such thing as a free lunch and asks about the second rule. Principal Chen lets out a sigh and says he technically shouldn't reveal this information, but since he already considers Chun-Mu a friend, he decides to secretly warn him anyway. Then he lowers his voice and reveals the second rule. The moment a human signs the purchase contract for Dark Night High School, they will immediately be obliterated by the power of the rules. Chun-Mu instantly understands the entire scheme. The first rule exists purely to tempt greedy humans with an unbelievably cheap price. Then, once they sign the contract, the second rule activates, kills them instantly, and allows the ghosts to take back both the school and the money at the same time. Even Chun-Mu admits the setup is extremely sinister. Principal Chen nods and says exactly. It's not that he personally refuses to sell the school. The problem is that Chun-Mu will absolutely die the moment he signs the contract. But Chun-Mu calmly says it doesn't matter because he still intends to buy the school anyway. The principal becomes even more alarmed and asks if Chun-Mu didn't understand what he just explained. As long as he signs the contract, death is guaranteed. Chun-Mu simply tells him to bring the contract over. At this point, even Principal Chen starts thinking that Chun-Mu might just be one of those people with more money than common sense. Still, he eventually brings the contract out. Without hesitation, Chun-Mu immediately signs it. The instant the signature is completed, a terrifying dark aura begins spreading throughout the office. Principal Chen sighs and says it's such a pity for a talented young man with such a bright future to die here. Then then suddenly, a massive scythe descends from above with overwhelming force. But right before it lands, Chun-Mu calmly tells the principal not to speak too soon. In the next moment, his armor instantly activates and blocks the attack completely. The terrifying strike fails to injure him at all. Principal Chen is completely horrified. He can't believe someone actually resisted the power of the rules themselves. Chun-Mu casually explains that it's nothing special. He just happens to possess an item capable of countering rule-based attacks. But hearing that explanation only shocks the principal even more. In the entire Ghost world, there is supposedly only one defensive armor capable of resisting the power of the rules, Duke William's unique armor. At that moment, Principal Chen finally connects everything together. Now he fully realizes that the Ghost General token Chun-Mu showed earlier most likely belongs to Duke William himself. After blocking the rule attack, Chun-Mu calmly asks if signing the contract means he is now officially the new director of Dark Knight High School. Principal Chen immediately changes his tone completely and respectfully confirms it. He even corrects himself midway, going from classmate Chun to director Chun, before inviting him to take the seat of honor. But Chun-Mu says there's no need for that because he's not good at management anyway. He tells Principal Chen to continue serving as acting principal like before. Principal Chen instantly agrees and thanks Director Chun for valuing him so highly. He promises he absolutely won't disappoint his expectations. Chun-Mu then orders him to gather all teaching staff and employees at the playground within 10 minutes. Soon afterward, the Dark Knight High School playground is packed with teachers and workers. Everyone is whispering among themselves after hearing the school was suddenly sold to a new owner. One person says this happened way too suddenly. Another asks who could possibly buy a school like this overnight. Then Principal Chen steps forward and tells everyone to quiet down before welcoming the new school director with warm applause. The moment he announces Chun-Mu's name, the entire crowd freezes. Every teacher and employee looks completely stunned. Some of the female staff stare in disbelief, while even the male staff standing in the back look like their brains just stopped working. One teacher immediately recognizes Chun-Mu and says he's the student who solved the exam earlier today. Another person can't believe the new school director is actually a human, and not just any human, but literally a student from the school itself. At this point, some staff members start panicking internally. They suddenly remember that the school literally created weird missions designed to kill humans. Now that a human has become their boss, they're terrified Chun-Mu might take revenge on all of them. A few employees even huddle together while crying, convinced their future is doomed. One says Chun-Mu will probably pay them back 100 times over for everything humans suffered here. Another guy quietly wonders if it's still possible to resign before things get worse. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu casually grabs the microphone and immediately shocks everyone with his first announcement. He says that from now on, the school belongs to him, and he only gathered everyone here for 3 things: pay raise, and another pay raise. The moment those words come out, the entire playground goes silent for half a second. Then Chun-Mu announces that starting today, the salaries of all teaching staff will officially be doubled. Instantly, the entire crowd erupts into chaos again, but this time from excitement instead of fear. Teachers start cheering all over the playground. One person can't believe they're actually getting a raise instead of punishment. Another employee says Chun-Mu not only isn't taking revenge on them, he's actually giving them even better benefits. Someone else emotionally declares that this isn't a normal school director at all. According to them, Chun-Mu is basically the living incarnation of the King of Hell. Honestly, at this point Chun-Mu accidentally became the greatest boss in Ghost history just by doing the bare minimum labor rights. But Chun-Mu still isn't finished yet. He announces that all employees will also receive a guaranteed 4-hour break every day. On top of that, every staff member of Dark Knight High School can eat for free at the midnight cafeteria. The moment everyone hears that, the female staff completely lose control of their excitement. Cheers instantly spread across the entire playground as employees begin shouting, "Long live Director Chun," over and over again. One overly excited teacher even shouts that she wants to have Director Chen's ghost babies, instantly making the atmosphere even more chaotic. Chun-Mu pretends not to hear that part at all and calmly continues speaking. He says that despite all these benefits, he only has one requirement for everyone. Within a month, Dark Knight High School must become the top school in the entire industry. The moment he says that, the teachers instantly become fired up. One female teacher confidently declares that Director Chun can rest assured because within a month, she guarantees the school's average score in foreign ghost language will rise to at least 140 points. Honestly, these employees were starving for basic respect for so long that one salary increase turned them into the most motivated workforce in existence. Seeing everyone's enthusiasm, Chun-Mu nods in satisfaction and says he has nothing more to add. He leaves the rest to Principal Chen before preparing to leave. Principal Chen respectfully tells Director Chun to take care and says he can contact him anytime if he needs anything. At the same time, the other staff members also respectfully send Chun-Mu off together. Right after that, Principal Principal Chen announces that Director Chun has already arranged dinner for everyone at the midnight cafeteria. However, not everyone is fully convinced yet. One male teacher quietly says everyone is celebrating too early. According to him, there's no way they're actually getting some luxurious feast. He assumes the cafeteria will probably just serve leftover blood meals from other ghosts. Another woman agrees and says her mother always taught her that nothing free in this world is truly good. But another teacher argues that even if the food really is leftovers, she honestly wouldn't mind anymore after receiving such incredible benefits already. To her, the taste doesn't even matter at this point. Meanwhile, another employee still can't fully believe any of this is real. He says he never expected a human to actually be this kind-hearted toward ghosts. At the midnight cafeteria, all the guys who were acting all smug a minute ago are now completely stunned. One of them asks the manager if they seriously just came here for a good meal only to get served the wrong food at insane prices. Because sitting right in front of them is literally every dish ghosts dream about. Yeah, Ghost Gordon Ramsay would probably cry tears of joy here. The staff manager, Lee, explains that they misunderstood and says this is the standard meal their boss prepared for the teaching staff. A lady says they really are uncultured wild ghosts who can't appreciate fine food. She says the meal is already laid out in front of them, yet they still doubt Director Chen's sincerity. Another ghost gets excited and starts naming all the dishes like she's reviewing a 5-star restaurant. She says there's ghost honey lung slices, sweet and sour ghost fish, soul-returning meat, all genuine heavy dishes. One girl even pulls out her phone to flex online and says that since she ended up with such an amazing superior like Director Chun, she absolutely has to show this off. As she uploads the post, the comments immediately start going crazy. One guy comments asking if their boss is insane and whether the school is meant for ghosts or humans anymore. Another says he graduated with a ghost and can work 26 hours a day. Bro is proudly advertising unpaid overtime like it's a superpower. Meanwhile, another ghost is live streaming while crying over the food. She says she can't finish it, she simply can't finish it. One random guy watching the stream gets jealous and says the treatment there looks amazing and that he wants to join too. But the guy behind him instantly smacks him and asks what kind of dream he's having. He says with conditions this good, why would they even hire them? They didn't even finish Ghost Elementary School. Another ghost tells him to stop daydreaming because they can barely afford to eat themselves and should focus on doing their own jobs properly. Then one of the lone scammer ghosts spots Chinmu walking nearby and says that human up ahead looks very easy to fool. Another immediately says they should hurry and pitch their latest loan package to him. But what they don't realize is that it's Chinmu. Chinmu thinks the school situation has finally been settled and now it's time to buy a luxury mansion and finally enjoy life a little. That's when one of the ghosts walks up with a paper and politely asks if he would like to learn about their microloan services. Chinmu says no thanks and keeps walking. But these guys refuse to give up and keep smiling like overly aggressive mall salesmen. One of them says their promotional discount is massive and that the monthly interest for 100,000 is only 100. He asks if Chinmu really doesn't want to reconsider. Chun-Mu calmly points out the real problem behind the loan contract. He says the 100,000 being lent out is in human currency, but the repayment requires ghost coins instead. And if repayment is overdue, the borrower gets forcibly executed. According to Chun-Mu, that's the real trap hidden inside the deal. The moment those words come out, the surrounding ghosts are instantly shocked. One of them blurts out that this human somehow figured out their scam completely. Another ghost suddenly notices that the aura around Chun-Mu feels completely abnormal and immediately suggests they should leave while they still can. One ghost even laughs awkwardly while saying farewell before turning around to run away on the spot. But before they can escape, Chun-Mu calmly tells them to wait a minute. The ghost instantly freezes and nervously turns back around, asking Chun-Mu what exactly he wants to do now. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu quietly analyzes them in his head. All three ghosts are around ghost captain level in strength. To him, they're actually perfect candidates to work as security guards for Dark Knight High School while also helping maintain order at the Midnight cafeteria. One of the ghosts quickly warns Chun-Mu that although he may be strong, the three of them together are not weak either. But Chun-Mu calmly says they misunderstood him completely. He says their physiques look pretty sturdy, so he's simply asking whether they'd be interested in working under him. The three ghosts instantly look stunned again. One of them quietly asks Brother Jia if they've somehow become outstanding enough to attract recruiters now. Even Brother Jia looks confused and says he has no idea what's happening anymore. Still, another ghost stubbornly declares that they shouldn't try to fool fool them. According to him, even if the three brothers starved to death, they would never work for a human. Another one immediately agrees and loudly declares that ghosts will never become slaves. Hearing that, Chun-Mu simply sighs and says that's truly unfortunate. He mentions that he had specially prepared a monthly salary of 10,000 ghost coins, along with room and board as employee benefits. Since they're unwilling, he says he won't force them. The moment Chun-Mu starts walking away, the three ghosts instantly panic. One of them hurriedly stops him and nervously asks whether the 10,000 monthly salary he mentioned is actually paid in ghost coins instead of human currency. Chun-Mu calmly replies that he disdains playing the kind of cheap tricks they use themselves. The next second, the three ghosts immediately bow together at lightning speed and beg Boss Chun to enslave them however he likes. Honestly, their principles lasted shorter than instant noodles in boiling water. Chun-Mu quietly thinks that with these three around, ordinary ghosts at least won't dare cause trouble at either the school or the cafeteria anymore. After settling that matter, Chun-Mu makes a phone call and tells someone to come pick him up at the entrance of Dark Knight School. The voice on the other side immediately responds with a respectful, "Okay, boss." 10 minutes later, a taxi quickly arrives on the road, and inside is the ghost driver everybody already knows and loves. The driver asks where Chun-Mu wants to go next. Chun-Mu simply replies that they're heading to Shanshui Courtyard. The driver immediately agrees and continues driving toward Shanshui Courtyard. Sometime later, they finally arrive, but the entire area is surrounded by a massive barrier. The atmosphere around the place feels completely different from outside, almost like the entire community has been isolated from the rest of the world. As the taxi approaches the entrance, the ghost driver suddenly stops the car and explains that the place is sealed by the power of the rules. Because of that, his vehicle cannot enter no matter what. Chun-Mu looks at the barrier with interest and immediately realizes how terrifying this place actually is. He quietly thinks that regardless of how powerful a visitor may be, anyone wanting to enter this community must still honestly obey the rules. Only a residential area protected to this extent could truly be called absolutely safe. After understanding the situation, Chun-Mu gets out of the car and tells the driver he can leave now because he'll enter by himself. The driver respectfully agrees before driving away. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu slowly walks toward the barrier alone. As he reaches it, he places his hand against the surface and starts wondering how he's supposed to trigger the weird scenario connected to this place. But right at that moment, a woman's voice suddenly calls out to him from nearby. She politely asks whether he's looking to buy a house. The moment Chun-Mu turns around, Chun-Mu is slightly surprised after seeing the woman and immediately realizes she's actually human. The woman politely asks again whether he's here to buy a house. Chun-Mu calmly replies that he is. The woman then hands him a business card and tells him it belongs to the property management office. She asks him to keep it carefully. The moment Chun-Mu takes the card, he notices something strange. The business card actually passes through the rule barrier without any resistance at all. Then, almost immediately, the shield in front of him opens up. As Chun-Mu walks through the barrier, he instantly understands the mechanism behind it. Only people carrying one of these business cards are permitted to enter. No wonder outsiders can't casually pass through the shield. After entering, Chun-Mu looks around and casually asks the woman whether she isn't planning to accompany him to view the houses. But the woman suddenly reveals the truth. She says she was actually trapped inside this place the entire time. If Chun-Mu hadn't shown up, she never would have been able to leave. According to her, now the only thing Chun-Mu can do is pray that another victim arrives to replace him someday. Only then does Chun-Mu realize he was completely scammed. Even he didn't expect to get tricked this cleanly inside a place like this. But after calming down for a second, Chun-Mu quickly figures out what really happened. He realizes he became a scapegoat who was fooled by the illusion created through the rule barrier itself. And now that he's seeing the real Shanshui Courtyard, the place looks absolutely miserable. The entire villa district is old, damaged, and completely run down. It looks nothing like the luxurious paradise shown outside the barrier. As Chun-Mu walks deeper inside, he curses under his breath while looking around. Everything is so broken down that he can't even figure out where the sales office is anymore. Right then, a mocking voice suddenly echoes nearby. A ghost appears and calls Chun-Mu a stupid human. He tells him there's no point searching because he'll never find the exit anyway, so he should honestly just stay put and accept his fate. But Chun-Mu calmly replies that the ghost misunderstood him completely. He says he was actually wondering how long it would take to renovate the entire place after buying all the villas here. The ghost instantly becomes confused. In his mind, this human somehow wandered into a deadly weird scenario without showing even a little fear. Instead of panicking, he's seriously talking about buying the entire estate. At this point, even the ghost starts wondering whether Chun-Mu is secretly messing with him. The ghost then asks Chun-Mu if he even knows how expensive this villa estate is. He says the place costs at least 50 million ghost coins, so Chun-Mu should stop daydreaming already. But Chun-Mu casually replies that it's only 50 million and says he'll take the entire place. The ghost's expression freezes instantly. Honestly, honestly, every ghost who tries to intimidate Chinmu ends up feeling like they accidentally picked a fight with a walking bank account. Before the ghost can even react properly, Chinmu flicks his fingers and instantly piles up a massive amount of ghost coins in front of him. The ghost stares at the mountain of money in total disbelief. He can't understand how a human can casually pull out this many ghost coins so easily. But after the shock passes, greed immediately takes over his mind. He secretly thinks that since Chenmu is clearly rich beyond imagination, he absolutely has to squeeze him for as much money as possible. To him, earning less money is basically the same as taking a loss. Meanwhile, Chenmu simply asks if there's any problem left. If not, he says they should just sign the contract already. But the ghost quickly stops him. He claims the previous price was just a casual number he threw out to test Chenmu's financial ability. Since Chenmu truly has the money, he'll now reveal the real price instead. Chenmu calmly tells him to go ahead. Then the ghost slowly reveals that buying the entire Shanshui courtyard will actually require 1 billion ghost coins. Chenmu instantly realizes this guy is trying to treat him like a walking ATM. In his mind, since the other side wants to play dirty, then he has no reason to stay polite either. So Chenmu calmly says that money is not an issue at all. However, before buying the estate, he wants to invite 2 friends over to visit his future home first. The ghost immediately agrees and says there's no problem with that. He then hands Chunmu an invitation card and explains that after speaking the invitation words aloud, the card will automatically fly to the person he's thinking about. After taking the card, Chunmu calmly speaks the invitation aloud. He announces that he, Chunmu, the new owner of Shanshui Courtyard, is giving the entire estate away to them for free and invites them to come visit his new home immediately. The second those words are spoken, the invitation cards instantly fly away into the distance. The ghost's face immediately twitches after hearing what Chenmu just said. In his mind, there's no way he ever promised to give away the entire estate for free. He feels like Chenmu just casually rewrote reality in front of him. Meanwhile, Chenmu calmly says his friends should arrive shortly. The ghost quickly regains his composure and says that until then, they'll simply consider the previous 50 million ghost coins as a deposit toward the full 1 billion price. But Chunmu tells him not to rush things yet. According to normal procedures, shouldn't the customer tour the estate first before making the purchase? The ghost can only agree and begins showing him around the property. As they walk through the ruined villa district, the ghost casually asks who exactly these friends are. He even wonders whether they're as wealthy as Chunmu. Chunmu casually replies that they're nothing special, just a few rich idlers. He says the ghost will understand once they arrive. Hearing that, the ghost immediately becomes excited internally. At this point, he's already thinking about how he might scam even more money out of Chunmu's friends too. Soon afterward, the ghost proudly introduces one of the villas and claims it's the crown jewel of Shanshui Courtyard. He says that as long as Chunmu pays the deposit first, they can immediately enter the property. But Chunmu once again tells him not to be impatient. He says they can finalize the purchase after his friends arrive. Then Chunmu calmly adds that if the ghost still wants to charge him 1 billion ghost coins at that point, he'll pay every single coin without hesitation. The ghost instantly relaxes after hearing that and says that since Mr. Chun already put it that way, he's happy to wait a little longer. After some more time passes, the ghost suddenly notices movement near the entrance and excitedly tells Chunmu that his friends have arrived. Chunmu politely says he'll have to trouble Boss Wu to lead the way there. Soon, they arrive at the sales office entrance of Shanshui Courtyard. The moment Boss Wu sees the first guest arrive, his expression changes completely. He instantly recognizes the newcomer as the manager's son from the depraved mall, one of the top ghost factions in the entire city. At that moment, Boss Wu becomes completely confused. He cannot understand why someone with that level of status would personally come to a place like Shanshui Courtyard just because of Chunmu's invitations. The moment he appears, he immediately greets Chunmu enthusiastically and calls him Mr. Chun. He explains that because Chunmu is a supreme black gold client of the depraved mall, they specially prepared a 1,000-year gold jade as a congratulatory gift for his new home. The moment Boss Wu hears the words supreme black gold client, his face almost turns pale on the spot. In his mind, this situation instantly becomes terrifying. He knows people at his level can't even qualify for an ordinary membership card from the depraved mall, yet this human somehow possesses the highest tier black gold status. At that moment, Boss Wu realizes he may have seriously offended someone he absolutely shouldn't have messed with. Honestly, the guy went from trying to scam Chinmu to mentally preparing his own funeral in under 30 seconds. Wanting to save himself immediately, Boss Wu hurriedly changes his attitude and says that since Mr. Chan is friends with the manager's son son of the depraved mall. He's willing to give a 50% discount off the original price. But Chun-Moo calmly tells him not to rush things again because his second friend still hasn't arrived yet. Boss Wu's heart instantly sinks even further. After waiting a little longer, another terrifying aura suddenly begins approaching Shanshui Courtyard. The pressure alone is enough to make Boss Wu's scalp go numb. In his mind, only one possibility remains: a ghost general. Then the next moment, Duke William himself arrives. The Duke casually asks whether he's late before warmly opening his arms and congratulating brother Chun-Moo on moving into a new home. The instant Boss Wu recognizes Duke William, his entire body nearly gives out from fear. Now he's completely panicking internally. Not only is Chun-Moo connected to the depraved mall's upper management, he's also personally acquainted with a ghost general. At this point, Boss Wu finally understands that he didn't just kick a steel plate this time. He practically launched himself straight into a mountain made of steel. As soon as Duke William arrives, he immediately walks over and warmly hugs Chun-Moo like an old friend. The Duke says he rushed over without stopping the moment he received Chun-Moo's invitation and hopes he didn't miss anything important. Chun-Moo smiles and tells him he arrived at the perfect time because the real show is only starting now. Then Chun-Moo introduces Boss Wu, the owner of Shanshui Courtyard. The moment Duke William's gaze lands on him, Boss Wu instantly forces out the most respectful smile of his entire life. He hurriedly says he has long heard of Duke William's great reputation and that meeting him today is truly an honor. As the two shake hands, Duke William casually says that since Boss Wu is giving an entire courtyard to his brother Chun-Moo, he must be incredibly generous. The second those words come out, Boss Wu nearly stops breathing. He immediately panics and hurriedly explains that there must have been some misunderstanding because he never intended to give away the courtyard for free. But Chun-Moo calmly asks why Boss Wu never objected earlier when he sent out the invitation cards announcing that the entire estate was being gifted to him. Duke William immediately joins in and asks Boss Wu how exactly he plans to explain that part. At this point, Boss Wu's brain is practically overheating from panic. He hurriedly changes his words again and says what he actually meant was that he planned to give Chun-Moo not only the entire courtyard, but also all the surrounding parking spaces together as one complete package. Chun-Moo then innocently points out that this doesn't sound very appropriate because Boss Wu previously claimed the Shanshui Courtyard alone was worth 1 billion ghost coins. Hearing that, Boss Wu almost collapses on the spot. He hurriedly says he only spoke that way because he thought Mr. Chun had a great sense of humor, so he was merely joking around a little earlier. Honestly, Boss Wu's survival instinct is evolving faster than Pokemon at this point. Finally, completely giving up on resistance, Boss Wu quickly brings over the contract himself. He says he has been deeply moved by Mr. Chen's character and voluntarily wishes to present all 47 villas and parking spaces as a personal gift to him. Meanwhile, inside his head, Boss Wu is screaming internally. There's no way he can afford to offend either the depraved mall or Duke William. If he refuses now, he genuinely feels like he might die right there on the spot. Chun-Moo calmly takes the contract into his hands and politely thanks Boss Wu for his generosity before saying he'll respectfully accept the gift. Then he directly signs the contract. The moment the agreement is completed, the contract instantly burns away into dark aura energy. At the same time, Chun-Moo can clearly feel his strength rising again. With the power gained from the Midnight Hotel, Dark Knight High School, and now Shanshui Courtyard, his strength officially reaches the mid-tier ghost captain level. Boss Wu immediately congratulates him and says that from now on, Shanshui Courtyard fully belongs to Boss Chun. Then, not daring to stay even a second longer, he says he won't disturb Chun-Moo's reunion with his friends any further. Chun-Moo calmly tells Boss Wu to take care as he leaves. Meanwhile, Boss Wu walks away with the most defeated posture imaginable, looking like his soul just got hit with overdue taxes. Seeing this, Duke William quietly warns Chun-Moo that Boss Wu just suffered a massive loss today, so there's no way he'll let the matter go easily. The Duke asks whether Chun-Moo wants him to personally deal with the problem, but Chun-Moo calmly says there's no need because he already made arrangements beforehand. Outside Shanshui Courtyard, Boss Wu continues walking while cursing furiously to himself. He angrily says that Duke William may be able to protect Chun-Moo temporarily, but there's no way the Duke can guard him forever. According to Boss Wu, he'll definitely get revenge sooner or later. But right as he's ranting, a car suddenly speeds over and stops directly in front of him, scaring him so badly that he falls backward onto the ground. Boss Wu immediately explodes in anger and starts yelling at the driver, asking whether they even know how to drive. He claims they scared him half to death wrath and demands compensation on the spot. According to him, the matter won't be settled for anything less than 100,000 ghost coins. A few men then slowly step out of the vehicle. One of them calmly says there's no problem because they're definitely here to help him settle things properly. At that point, Boss Wu finally realizes something feels wrong. He nervously asks who they are and who sent them. Then the leader steps forward. His brother Jia. Brother Jia calmly introduces himself and says their car is pretty spacious, so Boss Wu should come sit inside for a while. Before Boss Wu can resist, the group forcefully drags him into the car. Boss Wu immediately starts panicking and begs them to let him go while asking what they're trying to do. Inside the dark car, the three ghosts begin giving him what they call some special treatment. One of them explains that since Boss Wu tried to scam their boss, they naturally need to check whether his brain is functioning properly. The car instantly turns into a full customer service feedback session from hell. Boss Wu desperately cries for Brother Jia to stop, but the three ghosts completely ignore him and continue giving him even more beautiful treatment. Meanwhile, back inside Shanshui courtyard, Chun-Mu stands together with Duke William and the manager's son. At that moment, Chun-Mu receives a message saying the matter has already been handled. Even Chun-Mu didn't expect Brother Jia and the others to work this efficiently. Then Chun-Mu starts planning the future of Shanshui courtyard in his mind. Out of the 47 villas, he decides he'll only keep 10 available for public sale. The remaining 37 villas will be reserved as gifts for powerful ghosts in the future to gradually build his own network of influence. After making his plans, Chun-Mu turns toward Duke William and says he'd like to gift one villa to him as thanks for personally visiting today. Duke William hesitates slightly and says accepting something like that doesn't seem very appropriate. But Chun-Mu immediately replies that considering the friendship between them, there's no need for the Duke to refuse. Hearing that, Duke William finally accepts the gift and tells Chun-Mu that if he ever needs help in the future, he only needs to say the word. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu quietly thinks that with a ghost general like William protecting Shanshui courtyard, any ghosts wanting to stir up trouble around the community will definitely need to think twice first. Chun-Mu then turns toward Manager Sun and thanks him for personally coming over as well. Manager Sun immediately smiles politely and says Mr. Chun is being far too courteous. After all, Chun-Mu is the depraved mall's supreme client, so naturally they must show him the highest level of respect. Chun-Mu then gestures toward the surrounding villas and points out that most of the buildings are still empty shells. Because of that, he plans to fully renovate the entire estate. He also makes it clear that every single material needed for the renovations will be purchased directly from the depraved mall, so he wants Manager Sun to prepare a renovation proposal in advance. The moment Manager Sun hears this, his eyes practically start shining. In his mind, renovating all these villas will easily cost hundreds of millions of ghost coins. To him, it feels like a mountain of wealth just dropped directly onto his head again. Manager Sun immediately promises that he'll personally create the perfect renovation plan. According to him, the final result will absolutely be high quality and affordable. But Chun-Mu instantly cuts him off and says affordability doesn't matter at all. He says money is not an issue. He only wants the best materials and the most expensive options available. At this point, even Manager Sun almost looks ready to salute him. Honestly, every time Chun-Mu says money is not an issue, somewhere nearby another ghost suddenly discovers a new reason to respect him. Manager Sun quickly agrees and says he'll immediately begin preparing everything right away. Meanwhile, Duke William looks around at the massive estate and points out something important. The villas themselves may have been obtained for free, but fully renovating this place will still cost at least hundreds of millions of ghost coins. Because of that, the Duke asks whether Chun-Mu plans to sell the remaining villas afterward to recover the costs. But Chun-Mu calmly shakes his head and says that simply selling villas won't make much money at all. Instead, his real goal is to use Shanshui courtyard to create an exclusive upper-class social circle reserved only for top-tier ghosts. Chun-Mu calmly explains that his real goal is to use these villas to establish an exclusive high society circle reserved only for top-tier ghosts. Duke William thinks about it for a moment before saying that relying on the villas alone might still be somewhat difficult. But Chun-Mu says that of course the villas are only the beginning. In the future, he also plans to gradually develop all the surrounding industries as well. Then he asks Duke William to help promote Shanshui courtyard more within upper ghost society. Chun-Mu believes that newly promoted noble ghosts definitely won't miss a chance to build connections with the real upper echelon. The Duke immediately understands Chun-Mu's intentions and happily says to leave the matter to him. Soon afterward, back inside the office, Chun-Mu is reviewing documents when Manager Lee suddenly arrives and informs him that Manager Sun from the depraved mall is here. Chun-Mu tells her to let Manager Sun in immediately. Manager Sun then walks in carrying a proposal and respectfully hands it over to Chun-Mu. She explains that the depraved mall already drafted the complete renovation plan for Shanshui Courtyard and asks him to check whether anything still needs improvement. After reading through it, Chunmu says he's very satisfied and thanks her for the hard work. Manager Sun quickly replies that it was no trouble at all. However, she admits there's still one issue she needs to discuss with him personally. Chunmu immediately asks whether she needs an advanced security deposit first. But Manager Sun quickly shakes her head and explains that the problem actually has nothing to do with money. The real issue is that they still haven't found a suitable construction team. Since the project involves Chunmu's villas, they naturally don't dare hire random workers and risk cutting corners. Hearing that, Chunmu says that if necessary, they can simply postpone the handover deadline by a few days. But at that moment, Manager Lee suddenly proposes another solution. She suggests dispatching the cafeteria employees to help with the renovations instead. After all, they're already Chunmu's own people, so he'd naturally feel more comfortable trusting them. Chunmu immediately hesitates and says that doesn't sound very appropriate. If all the cafeteria employees go work on renovations, wouldn't the cafeteria itself completely stop operating? But Manager Lee casually replies that they can simply use their 4 hours of daily rest time to help with the renovations. The moment Manager Sun hears those words, she's completely stunned internally. In her mind, for whole hours of rest every single day already sounds unbelievably extravagant. Meanwhile, employees at the depraved mall are basically on standby 24 hours a day without complaint. Honestly, Chunmu accidentally created the ghost world's dream workplace and doesn't even realize it anymore. Still, Chunmu feels uncomfortable about the idea. He says suddenly taking away everyone's rest time after already promising it just doesn't sit right with him. But Manager Lee looks genuinely confused by his concern. She asks what's so bad about it because she honestly doesn't feel anything wrong with the arrangement at all. Then she casually points out that in the ghost world, overtime pay basically doesn't exist anyway. Chunmu finally gives in and says fine, they'll do it Manager Lee's way after all. However, he immediately adds one condition. Those 4 hours absolutely must count as overtime work, and every employee helping with the renovations must receive triple overtime pay. The moment Manager Lee hears that, she looks completely horrified. She hurriedly says nobody would feel comfortable accepting that kind of money. According to her, overtime pay simply doesn't exist anywhere in the ghost world. But Chunmu directly cuts her off and firmly says that his rules are the rules. Overtime wages absolutely cannot be reduced. Otherwise, nobody needs to work overtime at all. Manager Lee immediately realizes arguing is pointless. She quickly apologizes and says she understands before rushing off to make the arrangements, although she still looks oddly upset about the whole thing. Meanwhile, Manager Sun has been silently listening nearby the entire time. After hearing all of this, she can barely contain her excitement internally. In her mind, Chunmu's attitude somehow feels overwhelmingly domineering in the strangest possible way. At this point, the ghosts around Chunmu are basically developing emotional damage from receiving decent workplace treatment. After settling the matter, Chunmu tells Manager Sun to purchase all the renovation materials according to the proposal plan. Manager Sun immediately agrees and promises that the villas will definitely be renovated beautifully. Chunmu thanks her for the hard work before she leaves. Later that night, back at the midnight cafeteria, Manager Lee gathers all the employees together and announces that the boss has new instructions. The staff instantly become excited and urge her to hurry up and explain. Manager Lee tells them that the Shanshui Courtyard recently purchased by the boss is currently short on renovation workers, so Chunmu hopes everyone can use their rest time to help with the construction work. The moment the employees hear that, they instantly become emotional. One worker immediately stands up excitedly and says they finally waited for the day they could repay the boss properly. Another employee practically looks like he's about to cry and thanks the heavens for finally giving them a chance to return Chunmu's kindness. Someone else excitedly says they can finally work overtime for the boss now. But Manager Lee quickly warns everyone not to celebrate too early because Chunmu specifically emphasized that anyone participating in the overtime work will receive triple overtime pay. The entire cafeteria instantly falls silent. Then everyone explodes in shock. One employee grabs his head in despair and asks why this is happening. He says Chunmu already gave them the precious opportunity to work overtime, so why is he still insisting on punishing them with overtime pay too? Another worker becomes genuinely worried and says Chunmu keeps giving them benefits non-stop. At this rate, what if the boss actually goes bankrupt someday? Someone else nervously agrees and says it feels like they're just shamelessly freeloading off him now. Finally, one employee suddenly asks everyone to honestly touch their conscience and think carefully about how Chunmu has treated them so far. Another employee immediately replies that Chunmu treats them so well that words honestly can't even describe it anymore. Another employee immediately agrees and says exactly. According to him, the boss is still increasing everyone's benefits even during the hardest stage of his startup period. At this point, one worker actually starts crying emotionally. He says that if he truly accepts overtime pay from the boss, he genuinely won't know how to face the elders and ancestors of the ghost world anymore. Another employee asks what they're supposed to do then. The next second, the entire cafeteria suddenly raises their hands together and starts chanting in unison. Unpaid overtime, unpaid overtime, unpaid overtime. Honestly, Chun-Mu accidentally created the first workforce in history actively trying to avoid getting paid more money. Then one employee suddenly says that before everyone heads over to work, they first need to get their stories straight. Another worker looks confused and asks what he means by that. The employee immediately explains that anyone going to Shanshui Courtyard absolutely must not register their names on the overtime attendance sheet. The moment everyone hears this idea, their eyes light up instantly. Another employee excitedly calls the plan brilliant because if nobody registers their overtime hours, then the boss won't be able to force extra overtime pay onto them. Meanwhile, Manager Lee watches this entire scene while struggling to hold back tears. In her mind, she feels unbelievably moved seeing everyone possess such high awareness. Then she immediately announces that everyone should head out to Shanshui Courtyard right away and help share the boss's burdens together. The entire staff instantly cheers and rushes out excitedly. One employee even starts happily dancing while loudly singing that he loves working overtime because it feels amazing. As Chun-Mu walks into Shanshui Courtyard, he looks around at the incredible renovation progress and quietly thinks that several days' worth of work was completed in only a few hours. Honestly, the power of money really is terrifying. Seeing how quickly everything is advancing, Chun-Mu feels genuinely satisfied. He cheerfully thanks everyone for their hard work. The employees immediately greet him respectfully and insist that it's not hard work at all. One worker even proudly says the boss can rest assured because even though they're working unpaid overtime, they still guarantee both quality and efficiency. The second those words come out, the entire atmosphere freezes. Their leader immediately turns around and practically looks ready to strangle the guy on the spot. He angrily asks Avon what's wrong with him because everyone already agreed to hide that matter from the boss. He even says that if Avon doesn't want his mouth anymore, he can donate it to someone who actually needs one. Avon instantly panics and says it's because his mouth has no filter, so he accidentally blurted everything out. The moment Chun-Mu hears the words unpaid overtime, his expression instantly darkens. He directly demands a proper explanation. Inside, Chun-Mu becomes genuinely angry. In his mind, he absolutely cannot allow employees to secretly disobey company rules like this. The workers immediately panic after seeing his reaction. A few of them even huddle together in fear while begging the boss not to punish them because they truly didn't do it intentionally. Another employee nervously says they understand their mistake and asks Chun-Mu to spare them this once. Chun-Mu then firmly explains that he knows everyone volunteered to work overtime for free out of goodwill. However, rules are still rules and they absolutely must be followed strictly. Then, right in front of everyone, Chun-Mu immediately makes a phone call to Manager Lee. He orders her to strictly inspect all attendance records from now on and says employees working overtime are no longer allowed to skip or avoid clocking in. After ending the call, Chun-Mu turns back toward the employees and says Manager Lee will properly compensate everyone for their overtime wages. This time, he says he won't pursue the matter any further, but if something like this happens again, then he really will punish them. At this point, the workers honestly look more scared of losing overtime pay than getting beaten up. Then Brother Jia quickly changes the topic and invites Chun-Mu downstairs to inspect the newly renovated bedroom. Chun-Mu agrees and heads inside to take a look. After entering the room, he nods in satisfaction and says the results are actually pretty good. Brother Jia proudly explains that according to the current renovation schedule, the entire villa should be fully completed within only 2 more days. Chun-Mu praises everyone's work enthusiasm but once again reminds them that while passion for work is good, his rules absolutely cannot be crossed. Brother Jia immediately promises that with him supervising things personally, there definitely won't be any more attendance problems. Then, noticing how late it already is, Brother Jia respectfully tells Chun-Mu that he should head back and rest early. Chun-Mu looks at Brother Jia and admits that he didn't expect him to be this clever. Brother Jia immediately laughs awkwardly and says that to them, the boss's health is far more important than their wages anyway. Later, back inside the midnight cafeteria office, Manager Lee reports to Chun-Mu that she already distributed the overtime pay to all the employees who secretly worked overtime the previous day. But as Chun-Mu reviews the attendance sheets, he quickly notices something suspicious. He calmly asks Manager Lee whether she's absolutely sure there's nothing strange going on with the attendance records. The moment he asks that question, Manager Lee instantly starts panicking. Chun-Mu then coldly points out that if even the manager dares to hide things from him, how can he expect anyone else in the midnight cafeteria to obey the rules in the future? Manager Lee immediately bows her head and apologizes. But Chun-Mu tells her that's not the answer he actually wants to hear. Left with no choice, Manager Lee finally admits the truth. She explains that the employees are indeed clocking in properly according to Chun-Mu's requirements now. However, they've started subconsciously subconsciously arriving earlier and leaving later every single day. The moment Chun-Moo hears that, he instantly calls it complete rebellion. In his eyes, this terrifying toxic rat race culture somehow managed to appear inside his businesses anyway. Honestly, Chun-Moo is probably the only boss in existence actively fighting his employees because they work too hard. Chun-Moo lets out a sigh and starts worrying about what will happen if employees collapse from such high-intensity workloads. He even realizes he still hasn't arranged medical insurance for everyone yet. Manager Lee looks confused and asks what exactly medical insurance is. Hearing that question suddenly gives Chun-Moo a new idea. He remembers that hospitals capable of treating ghosts are extremely rare in this era. If he could somehow purchase a hospital specifically for ghosts, it would basically mean controlling the medical lifeline of every ghost in the entire city. With that thought in mind, Chun-Moo asks Manager Lee where ghosts normally go when they're injured or sick. Manager Lee sighs and explains that most ghosts simply buy medicine themselves for minor illnesses. As for major illnesses, they basically just wait for death. Chun-Moo finds that hard to believe and points out that although he heard ghost hospitals have terrible cure rates, it still shouldn't be bad enough for ghosts to completely give up on treatment altogether. Manager Lee then explains the real problem. Currently, there are no hospitals anywhere in Wangjiang City that specifically specialize in treating ghosts. Because of that, injured ghosts have no choice but to travel to neighboring cities for treatment. Not only are the medical expenses unbelievably expensive there, but the chances of losing both your life and your money are also extremely high. After hearing all this, even Chun-Moo is speechless for a moment. Then he bluntly says this really does sound like an outright scam. After hearing everything, Chun-Moo quietly realizes that he needs to acquire a ghost hospital as soon as possible. In his mind, if there are profits to be made from the medical industry, then he definitely intends to be the one collecting them himself. Meanwhile, Manager Lee misunderstands his expression completely and says she can truly feel the boss's concern for all of them. Chun-Moo casually replies that it's good she understands. But while speaking, another thought suddenly flashes through his mind. According to his memories from the previous timeline, Wangjiang City actually did have a famous ghost hospital in the future, which means there's only one explanation. That weird scenario probably hasn't descended yet. Chun-Moo immediately asks Manager Lee again whether she's certain there are currently no hospitals in Wangjiang City specifically treating ghosts. Manager Lee confirms that there aren't any because the city hasn't received any notifications about a new weird scenario descending yet. Hearing that, Chun-Moo instantly understands the timing. Then he asks Manager Lee whether they can obtain information about newly appearing weird scenarios the moment they descend. Manager Lee says yes, and then curiously asks whether Chun-Moo is planning to acquire another weird scenario again. Chun-Moo immediately gives her a new order. He tells her to arrange several ghosts to closely monitor the abandoned hospital located in the southern suburbs. The moment a ghost hospital scenario descends there, he wants to be informed immediately. Manager Lee quickly agrees and says she'll arrange it right away. But internally, she's completely amazed. In her mind, the boss is truly extraordinary. Somehow, he can even predict the location of future weird scenario invasions ahead of time. Chun-Moo's taxi speeds through the night before finally stopping at its destination. The ghost driver looks outside and tells the boss that they've arrived at Fright Hospital. Then he asks whether Chun-Moo needs him to come along this time. But Chun-Moo casually says there's no need. Just like usual, the driver only needs to wait outside for him. At this point, Chun-Moo immediately realizes the ghost hospital scenario has finally descended. The moment he steps into the hospital grounds, a notification instantly appears before him. It announces a weird mission called Thriller Hospital. The mission requirements state that Chun-Moo will serve as an intern doctor inside the hospital and must successfully pass his internship period. After reading that, Chun-Moo immediately thinks about how ridiculous the setup sounds. A random intern treating ghosts like a professional doctor? No wonder this hospital has such a terrible cure rate and such an absurdly high death rate. As Chun-Moo walks deeper inside, he carefully observes the surrounding environment. The entire hospital gives off an extremely eerie underworld atmosphere. Blood-stained walls, flickering lights, and dark hallways stretch endlessly in every direction. And, of course, the classic bloody handprints are everywhere again. At this point, Chun-Moo is honestly starting to suspect every weird scenario shares the exact same interior designer. While he's walking, a ghost nurse suddenly approaches him and asks whether he's the newly arrived intern doctor. Chun-Moo calmly confirms that it's him. The nurse then looks slightly surprised and points out that he doesn't seem scared at all. Chun-Moo casually replies that, after seeing enough terrifying things, people naturally get used to them eventually. The nurse actually seems amused by his answer and says he's quite an interesting human before telling him to follow her. As Chun-Moo walks behind her, another thought suddenly appears in his head. After constantly seeing grotesque monsters everywhere lately, this ghost nurse somehow looks weirdly charming in comparison. Then Chun-Moo immediately realizes what that thought means and quietly concludes that he's probably been single for way too long. A little later, the nurse finally stops walking and announces that they've arrived. The moment Chun-Mu enters the room, a thick smell of blood instantly hits him in the face. Inside the operating room stands a man radiating heavy ghostly pressure. The nurse introduces him as Director Tong, the chief physician from the ghost world's Big Iron Stick Hospital. Director Tong looks over at Chun-Mu and asks whether he's the newly arrived intern doctor. Chun-Mu politely greets him and introduces himself by name. Right after that, someone hands Chun-Mu a booklet and tells him these are the operating room's rules and regulations, so he should read them carefully first. As Chun-Mu begins reading, he instantly realizes the booklet itself contains the core survival rules of this weird scenario. The rules state that Director Tong possesses supreme medical skills, never lies, and can always provide perfect treatment plans. Therefore, all staff must absolutely obey him. The second rule warns that nobody is allowed to leave the operating room while on duty. The third rule states that Chun-Mu must successfully treat a total of 5 patients and receive at least 3 positive reviews from them. Otherwise, the mission will automatically fail. The fourth rule explains that some patients have withdrawn personalities, so he must patiently satisfy their needs in order to avoid receiving negative reviews. After reading all the rules carefully, Chun-Mu quickly understands the basic structure of the mission. In his mind, 5 total patients means he can only afford to fail twice at most. Now the real problem becomes figuring out how to avoid angering what are obviously going to be extremely unstable ghost patients. Soon afterward, the nurse tells Chun-Mu to sit down for now. Chun-Mu thanks her, but after looking around the empty operating room, he asks why there aren't any patients yet. Director Tong calmly explains that there are naturally fewer patients during the nighttime hours. But almost immediately after saying that, a ghost patient suddenly rushes into the room while screaming for help. The ghost desperately begs the doctors to save him while clutching a wound on his hand. Director Tong immediately tells Chun-Mu to help the patient onto the operating bed. Chun-Mu quickly does so while the patient continues crying out in pain. Director Tong then instructs Chun-Mu to first disinfect the wound using ghost flower oil and cotton balls. Chun-Mu agrees and immediately begins following the instructions. As he works, Director Tong carefully guides him step by step. He reminds Chun-Mu that his movements need to remain gentle and specifically instructs him to rotate 3 circles to the left and 3 circles to the right while disinfecting the wound. After watching Chun-Mu perform the steps correctly, Director Tong praises him and says he handled it pretty well. Then he tells him to simply wrap the bandage and finish the treatment. While completing the process, Chun-Mu quietly starts feeling suspicious. The treatment itself feels way too simple. Honestly, this surgery had less difficulty than applying a band-aid after falling off a bicycle. Because of that, Chun-Mu immediately feels like there has to be some hidden trap somewhere inside the mission. After the treatment is finished, the patient thanks Dr. Chun before preparing to leave. Chun-Mu feels like everything should be fine now and casually reminds the patient to get more rest after returning home. The ghost quickly leaves the operating room at high speed. Watching him run away so quickly, Chun-Mu even jokes internally that the guy looks like he's in a hurry to reincarnate. But the very next moment, a system notification suddenly appears before him. It announces that Chun-Mu's first surgery only received a score of 50 points and has officially failed. On top of that, he has already received 1 negative review from the patient. The mission directly declares the surgery a failure. The moment he sees that notification, even Chun-Mu is stunned. He immediately starts panicking internally because he genuinely has no idea where things went wrong. Director Tong notices Chun-Mu's expression and calmly tells him not to worry because there's still a chance to clear the mission. But instead of relaxing, Chun-Mu immediately starts analyzing the situation more carefully. Since the rules specifically state that the director will never lie, Chun-Mu decides the easiest way to confirm his suspicions is to directly question him. Meanwhile, Director Tong notices Chun-Mu staring at him non-stop and finally sighs before asking why he keeps looking at him like that. Chun-Mu immediately asks whether Director Tong truly only tells the truth to intern doctors participating in the mission, just like the rules claim. Director Tong confirms that he indeed does not deceive intern doctors taking part in the mission. After hearing that answer, Chun-Mu immediately asks the real question. He asks Director Tong whether he's truly as highly skilled and masterful as the rules describe him to be. The moment Director Tong hears that, he casually admits that his medical skills are actually only average. Then he says he honestly didn't expect Chun-Mu to discover the flaw hidden in the rules so quickly. At that moment, everything instantly clicks together in Chun-Mu's mind. He realizes the weird mission itself has evolved in difficulty. Now even the rules can contain false or misleading information mixed in with the truth, which means blindly following the director's instructions during surgery could easily get him killed later. Chun-Mu immediately looks back at the mission status carefully. The requirement saying he must treat 5 patients is probably true, but the part claiming Director Tong possesses supreme medical skills is clearly false. Now Chun-Mu realizes he only has 1 remaining chance to fail before the mission becomes becomes impossible to clear. So the biggest problem becomes figuring out how to create a guaranteed path to success. Then suddenly, another thought flashes through his mind. The rules only say he must treat 5 patients. They never actually specify where those patients need to come from. The moment Chunmu realizes that loophole, he immediately starts scrolling through his contacts. And honestly, there couldn't be a more perfect group for this job than Brother Jia and the other 3 muscle-brained ghosts. Meanwhile, over at Dark Knight High School, the 3 ghosts are already discussing Chunmu's sudden request. One of them asks where they're even supposed to find 3 patients willing to give positive reviews in the middle of the night. Another ghost agrees and says there definitely aren't that many sick ghosts wandering around outside this late. But Brother Jia suddenly smacks both of them on the head and says they're thinking way too small. According to him, if there are no patients available, then they'll simply create some themselves. The next moment, the 3 suddenly notice a female ghost walking down the street nearby. One of the ghosts immediately gets distracted and starts grinning while saying the girl is actually pretty attractive. Brother Jia instantly slaps him again and angrily asks why he's still busy looking at pretty girls instead of focusing on the boss's mission. He even threatens to break the guy's arm himself and personally send him to the hospital as one of Chunmu's patients. The ghost immediately panics and admits he was wrong. But before they can continue arguing, another male ghost suddenly appears and blocks the girl's path. The girl instantly becomes nervous. Then the suspicious guy smiles at her and says it's very dangerous for a young ghost girl to wander around outside so late at night. The moment Brother Jia and the others see this scene, all 3 of them slowly start grinning together. Because in their eyes, they've finally found the perfect patient candidate. Brother Jia and the others immediately start walking toward the group while grinning. One of them happily says the patients are basically delivering themselves right to their doorstep. Another guy looks at the 3 troublemakers and says there just so happens to be exactly 3 of them too. Then Abu steps forward and sarcastically asks whether they're seriously bullying an innocent young ghost girl in the middle of the night. One of the thugs immediately replies with complete arrogance and says so what if they are? According to him, the girl has a great body, so what's wrong with his big brother touching her a little? It's not like she'll lose a piece of meat over it. Another thug then demands that the girl hand over some money before their boss gets angry, saying they'll consider the matter settled afterward. At this point, Brother Jia slowly cracks his knuckles and says he actually does want to give them something. One of the thugs immediately smirks and says at least they have some common sense after all. The next second, Brother Jia punches him directly in the face so hard the guy practically sees his ancestors. Brother Jia calmly says the thing he wants to give them is a free trip to the afterlife. Then the other 2 muscle ghosts immediately rush in and start beating up the remaining thugs as well. One of them yells at the thugs, asking if they still dare to act arrogant now. Very quickly, the 3 troublemakers are completely folded. One guy cries that his leg is broken. Another screams while holding his face. The 3rd guy painfully says his ribs are shattered. Meanwhile, the ghost girl bows gratefully and thanks them for saving her. She even calls them the great heroes of Dark Knight High School. The moment the 3 muscle ghosts hear a pretty girl praising them like that, they instantly become happier than children getting candy. One of them starts laughing awkwardly and says he's unbelievably happy right now. Another guy proudly repeats that she actually called them heroes. Honestly, those 3 share exactly 1 brain cell, and even that one is currently blushing. Afterward, Brother Jia grabs one of the injured thugs and throws him into the van. Then he tells the others that sending all 3 patients into the hospital together would look too suspicious. So instead, they'll send one guy in first before sending the other 2 separately afterward. The other 2 muscle ghosts immediately agree and promise they'll follow Big Brother's arrangements perfectly without dragging the boss down. Soon afterward, the van arrives outside Fright Hospital. One of the ghosts points at the building and reminds everyone that this is the hospital where the boss is currently completing his mission. Then they open the van door. The injured thugs inside instantly start panicking after seeing the hospital. Brother Jia immediately grabs one of them and drags him toward the entrance. The guy desperately resists and begs not to be sent inside. He says 9 out of 10 ghosts die while being treated at this terrible hospital, and he absolutely doesn't want to go in. Brother Jia then leans down and coldly warns him to remember every word carefully. Otherwise, once he comes back out, they'll make him evaporate on the spot. He explains that after entering the hospital, the guy must specifically find a doctor named Chunmu for treatment, and after the treatment is finished, he absolutely must leave a positive review. Then Brother Jia even pulls out a stack of money and says all of it will belong to him after giving the positive review properly. But immediately after that, his expression turns cold again. He points at the hospital entrance and says he'll personally be waiting outside the entire time. If the guy dares play tricks behind Chunmu's back, then the same money will instead be used to host his funeral funeral banquet. The thug instantly nods in terror and says he understands completely. The next second, Brother Jia directly kicks him through the hospital barrier while yelling at him to get inside already. Back inside the operating room during duty hours, an injured ghost suddenly rushes in while loudly asking where Dr. Chun is. He says he specifically came here to find Dr. Chun for treatment. The moment Chun Mu sees him, he immediately realizes Brother Jia and the others worked way faster than expected. Honestly, those three probably missed their true calling as emergency patient delivery services. Even Director Tong looks confused after hearing this. He says it's strange because intern doctors normally don't have patients specifically requesting them by name. Meanwhile, Chun Mu calmly thinks that this is simply the power of cash. Then Chun Mu introduces himself and says he's the intern Dr. Chun Mu. The injured ghost secretly looks him over and becomes confused internally too. He originally thought someone capable of commanding ghost captain tier underlings would at least be some terrifying ghost general level existence. Instead, Chin Mu just looks like an ordinary human. Still, the guy immediately starts crying dramatically and says he accidentally slipped earlier and fell face first onto the ground. Chun Mu calmly tells him to leave the treatment to him and asks him to lie down on the hospital bed first. He explains that he'll disinfect the wounds and then prescribe some red medicine afterward for recovery. The ghost instantly nods repeatedly and says it's all his own fault for wandering around outside recklessly at night. He even thanks Chun Mu for giving him the honor of personally receiving treatment from him. At this point, even Director Tong is staring at the situation in disbelief. In his mind, he honestly can't understand what's happening anymore. Somehow even doctors have fans now. Meanwhile, while treating the wounds, Chun Mu casually asks whether it hurts. The ghost immediately replies that it doesn't hurt at all. In fact, according to him, the force feels just right and even strangely comfortable. Most importantly, he says it doesn't hurt his brain. After finishing the treatment, Chun Mu tells him the wounds are cleaned up now and he's free to leave. The ghost instantly becomes emotional and loudly thanks Dr. Chun again, even saying Chun Mu is basically like his second parent. Right afterward, another notification appears before Chun Mu. It announces that Chun Mu's second surgery received a perfect score of 100 points along with a 5-star positive review. Seeing the notification, Chun Mu finally relaxes slightly. Now he only needs 2 more positive reviews to safely clear the mission. But before he can even process things further, 2 more injured ghosts suddenly rush into the operating room together. One of them cries out that he and his brother were hit by a car and begs Dr. Chun to save them quickly. The second ghost also desperately asks Chin Mu for help. Seeing this scene, even Director Tong becomes completely stunned again. He genuinely can't understand why every patient suddenly keeps specifically requesting Chun Mu one after another. One patient just left, and now 2 more immediately arrived afterward. At this point, Director Tong almost starts suspecting Chun Mu has some kind of disaster-attracting physique. Meanwhile, Chun Mu calmly tells them not to panic and says their injuries look more urgent, so he'll treat them immediately. But the moment he sees one of the injured ghosts clearly, Chun Mu's expression subtly changes, because he instantly recognizes him. In his previous life, this exact ghost cut off one of Chun Mu's fingers. The moment Chun Mu sees that ghost clearly, memories from his previous life instantly flood back into his mind. Back then, this same guy mocked him while saying Chun Mu didn't know his own limits and insisted on pretending to be some kind of hero. Then the ghost cruelly laughed while asking Chun Mu how it felt to be betrayed by the very person he tried to save. According to him, Chun Mu's own brother sacrificed his index finger in exchange for escaping alive himself. The more Chun Mu remembers, the colder his expression becomes. At that moment, he quietly swears to himself that today he'll finally take revenge for the finger he lost in his previous life. Meanwhile, the injured ghost lying on the hospital bed suddenly notices the terrifying look on Chun Mu's face and instantly starts feeling nervous. In his mind, he keeps wondering whether he somehow offended Dr. Chun without realizing it. Then Chun Mu slowly picks up a defibrillator and calmly says he'll use this for the treatment instead. The moment the ghost sees that machine, his entire expression changes. Chun Mu calmly asks whether he's ready to begin treatment. The ghost immediately panics and says there's no need for something so serious because he only broke a rib. Honestly, the guy looked 1 second away from signing a discharge form and running out the hospital himself. But Chun Mu immediately asks whether the patient is trying to teach him how to do his job. Hearing that, the ghost instantly loses all confidence and hurriedly says he wouldn't dare question Dr. Chun at all. Chun Mu then calmly warns him that the voltage on this machine is a little high, so he should bear with it for a moment. The next second, Chun Mu directly shocks him with the defibrillator. The ghost instantly convulses on the bed while desperately insisting he doesn't dare complain. But Chun Mu looks completely unsatisfied and calmly says the patient seems to be speaking nonsense already, which probably means the power still isn't high enough. Then he increases the voltage voltage even more and shocks him again. The entire operating room practically lights up. Meanwhile, the other injured ghost watches this scene in complete horror. In his mind, Brother Jia's friend is almost getting roasted alive right in front of him. After another brutal shock, the ghost suddenly jerks upward from the hospital bed while screaming before collapsing back down again. Then, horrifyingly, his soul literally starts floating out of his mouth. Seeing this, even the second injured ghost almost stops breathing from fear. Meanwhile, Chun-Mu calmly turns toward him and says his brother's injuries were unfortunately too severe. According to Chun-Mu, it seems the patient has already passed away. The second ghost instantly panics internally after hearing that, because now he realizes the dead guy obviously can't leave a positive review anymore. And if Brother Jia and the others waiting outside discover this situation, then he himself is probably doomed too. If you want more, like and comment right now.